Happy Hump Day to you, George Brockler, 710 KNUS. You made it. It is the middle of the week, and we are now in a position to, I think, really enjoy the downward slide into the weekend after today. If you have not yet looked outside, don't do it. Feel like you don't need to go anywhere, then don't go anywhere. It's not really that bad. Honestly, I think the kids were really disappointed that the weather isn't worse. But let me tell you what our good friends at Channel 7 have prognosticated here. They have decided that Wednesday, that's today, will have snow. They're right. But they've also downgraded their temperature by 5 degrees. They said it was going to be 22 degrees. They have since decided that Puxatawny Phil will put on a thicker coat today. It's going to be a high of 17. I think that's below freezing, if I remember anything from high school. And then Saturday, of course, is at 55 degrees still. Those are really the only changes. Tomorrow's going to be 32. That's an explosion of 15 degrees, nearly 100% increase in the temperature, but that's still very, very cold. And then Friday, we get all the way, another 18 degrees up, 50 degrees. Just to put that in perspective, because I'm a math guy, Wednesday has a temperature that is about 1/3 of the predicted temperature for Friday. No explanation as to why the things change on all that stuff. I came to discover that the snow would not be that bad last night. I don't know if you remember from the show yesterday, I debated openly on air whether I would take the kids to the Rock Canyon High School basketball game. It may be the last home game of the season. They are either number 1 or number 2, jockeying with Mountain Vista, which is the next high school over from them. The top 2 high school basketball teams in the state of Colorado, at least according to CHSAA, are within about 4 miles of each other, which is crazy to think, but that's it. So I debated whether to take them to the Rock Canyon versus Heritage basketball game or take them to Scouts. You may remember that one of the Scout leaders was listening and texted me, "If you don't come, I will know." And I didn't take that as a threat. I took that more as cajoling. Well, I asked Jeff, who's my rule follower? And I've told you that.
Yeah.
And I thought Jeff would for sure say, "Hey, Dad, no, I got to go and do this thing." I said, "Buddy, how important is this particular Scout meeting?" And he said, "Not really. It's sort of like if you need to get caught up on some things, if you have a merit badge thing, some things to get signed off on, this is the time to do it." I said, "Well, what would you rather do, man? Would you rather go to Scouts or would you rather go to Rock Canyon basketball?" And he says, "Well, I haven't gone to a basketball game all year. It is my high school. I think I'd rather do that." And I was like, "What? Oh my goodness, buddy. That is so great." And of course, Graham was a no-brainer. I'm like, "What do you want to do?" He's like, "I want to go see the basketball game." So we did. And as we were driving from the house, the first few flakes were starting to fall. And I thought, oh, this is it, man. We're going to go sit in a gym with a bunch of parents. It's senior night. You know what I mean? There's going to be hooting and hollering. And when we walk out of the gym, man, the world is going to look like it's been blanketed with snow. That didn't happen. Nope, that didn't even come close to happening. Instead, we walked out and it looked exactly like it did before. Now, some folks are wondering, well, George, how did the game go? The Eagles kept it close for several minutes. Even through the first quarter, they got, I think within 12-10 was the closest it got. It ended with Heritage having put up 30 points and the Rock Canyon Jaguars putting up 71. So that is not a close game, and it was ridiculous. There is this senior that they're going to miss next year named Gavin Hirschberger. This cat reined in 3-point shots like nobody. He was like Steph Curry out there. And I mean, just 5 3-pointers, flawless they had a technical foul called on Heritage, so he got to shoot those. Dude's just sinking everything. The shots he missed, there was only one where I thought, oh, that's interesting. He didn't make that one. The others were shots that had they gone in, they would be Jordan-like in there.
Oh, geez.
And these other guys on the team were just, in the second half, they came out and just blew the doors off of Heritage. The Heritage guys, I'll give them this, man. They are skilled, and they never gave up. They are fighters, but they didn't have the height that they needed. And frankly, once they got down, the defense that the Jags put on them just couldn't get it done. So it was a big day for the Jags. I don't know if this I don't know what happened to Mountain Vista, so I don't know if this advances them up again, but it's going to be a crazy thing. So very excited about that. And then we walk outside and see bone dry. Even Jeff was like, oh, man, total letdown. Total letdown. And I thought, yeah, buddy, you guys are going to school tomorrow. And there was a little bit of like, so we drove home, got up. I get up this morning before the kids, of course. I looked outside and I'm like, oh man, there may not even be a delay. But get this, a teacher from the school who knows that I'm on the radio and all this other stuff texts me and says, this is the message that went out on online, which I haven't yet looked for. And that is, hey, parents, if you're uncomfortable with your kids coming to school today because of the snow, go ahead and keep them at home and it'll be an excused absence. And I'm like, yes, that's what I said.
The hell?
I'm like, wait, is this a response to our criticism last time?
What? That just, if you're uncomfortable, what?
Yeah, man. By the way, you don't have to tell parents that's okay. They'll do it anyway. If they don't want to send their kids to school, they ain't going to send them to school.
Yeah, the other part that I've got is the problem of if that is the reason, then I'll just tell you that I got 2 kids in my house that if I found out that was an offered reason from the school, they would just, from now until the end of the semester, it would be, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable going today.
I think there has to be at least several millimeters of snow to do it. But
I just think, but the idea that the qualification for it is that you're uncomfortable. I got to. How low is this bar? What is? Oh,
but here's going to be the practical impact, and it's unfair on certain kids. Here's what it's going to be. First off, I didn't see any message that said, teachers, if you feel uncomfortable coming to work today, it'll be an excused absence, and you can. So the teachers are all coming.
That goes without saying for administrators, though. Administrators say, no, stay home. We love you. In fact, we will send delivery to your house.
There's a different administrator call tree. You know what I mean? That said, where they've called each other and said, you can come in late. Don't worry about it.
We've got Drizzly showing up at your house with a bourbon about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Are you the math teacher? Get in here.
Get in here.
The hell's wrong with you, ceramics guy?
Jeez.
Multimedia dude or dudette.
Have a commitment to the job.
This is my concern. And I mentioned this. Trey has 3 tests today. He did not go to the basketball game. He stayed home and studied for this thing, wants to get it knocked out. And now I worry that maybe there'll be enough students that bail on the day because of discomfort. And I'm not talking lower GI distress. I'm talking about parents are like, oh, hell, why don't you stay home? That the teacher's like, well, you know what? Let's just reschedule the test. Trey will lose his mind. It'll be like, are you kidding me? The responsible kids with the responsible parents are ready for a test, and we're going to cater to the lowest common denominator in student performance and attendance. That's bat guano crazy, man. I had to catch myself there. It wasn't going to be a Beau Visage moment. It was going to be a BS moment right there. Just nuttiness. So I don't know what's going on with the district. I don't know if it's worth bothering Aaron Kane with it, but what?
And also, I've talked to the kids about this a number of times, and it's not necessarily related to this, but I've had to tell them that sometimes these things are supposed to be a little bit difficult. Sometimes there are supposed to be challenges in which you overcome. And guess what? In life, sometimes you have some responsibilities that you need to take care of when the weather sucks. So today, it's your responsibility to get your happy little sunshine body and your little rear end into the school room. Go to school, get to the building. This is kind of a life lesson. And I have a problem where we sit here and say, well, because it might be difficult for you to not do it just because of the weather, and that's going to be an excuse. No. And again, like you said, the parents that are going to make that choice for their child are already going to call out whether or not you send out that message, because they'll make up some sort of excuse. The kid is sick. Kid's got a doctor's appointment. Who knows? Listen, if they've decided to excuse their kid, they're going to invent some sort of a story. You don't have to worry about that. But the problem that I have is it is the setting up the school, deciding that it is okay for you not to make a more than average effort to get to
school. And this
school.
Is nothing, man. In California, I get it. The entire world shuts down. In Colorado, this is still walk to school weather. I mean, I remember being a kid when we were at the daycare, Mary Moffitt's daycare out there in Lakewood. They had a van. Oh, yeah. It was great. They had a van. You could opt to ride in the van or you could walk. In this weather, they would still let you walk to school.
Yeah.
I mean, you got your big, fluffy, puffy coat back then, which has come back into fashion in a way. and they let you walk.
Yeah, this is moon boot weather. We all remember
Yeah,
those crappy moon boots.
What a great reference, Billy. Love them. Where did you go, moon boots?
Exactly. So this is it. That's why you have those things. And again, I have a problem when either parents or schools try to remove every potential hurdle or speed bump that the child is going to encounter, because guess what? Life is difficult. Get a helmet. It's tough at times. And I think at times there needs to be some things that are difficult. Just like when one of my kids a while ago talked about having difficulty in class and this, and I want to do this because the other class is going to be easier. I'm like, but can you do the work? Yeah, but it's going to be tough. And I think it's going to have to spend some extra time. Good. I think that's an okay choice. Again, I wasn't going to make them stay in one class or the other, but we had a conversation about the fact that there are going to be times and there are going to be things,
I know,
both in your personal life and your professional life, that are going to be tough.
This is setting up problems for future employers.
Yeah.
Where employers are going to be like, hey, where are you? It's like, well, there's snow on the ground. And
I'm uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable.
I'm
Billy,
so uncomfortable on the snow.
We received a text from someone at a safe injection site who has texted in, Bill is my new life coach. That's
a very poor life decision. My first piece of advice as your life coach is find a different coach.
Also,
or you and I are both going to be in a lot of trouble.
Also, Steven Steffen, apparently on his show, having received somehow notice. I mean, the text here must have been broken last night because he didn't get any, which he normally gets some text, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, per some of the texters, they're like, Steven's instructions were to text you and call you Jorge for next week. And what I appreciate is that, what is that? Mimicry is the best kind of compliment right there. Yep. Next thing he'll be doing is like, imitate. The next thing he'll be doing is like showering and stuff like that to try to keep up. I don't know.
And then you don't want to wear cool hats.
Now, well,
and not just Padre stuff.
Is this the right time to do the hat stuff?
Oh, we can do the hat stuff. Let's do that.
Now, listen, we have a listener who will remain nameless because, frankly, I don't think they've ever been named, not even by their parents. And, you know, the hat thing we have going on here, and I'll be honest, I have been a bit lax from time to time, and it's really been twofold. Yeah. One, I just freaking forget. Like if I'm outside and I get in the car and I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And then other times I'm like, where is that big thing of hats? I can't find the big thing of hats. I have all these like dozens and dozens of hats where the big. So
it's been kind of nice for me though, because you've kind of, forgotten a couple of days.
I forgot.
So I don't feel the pressure to always find a new hat
and
every
I'm
day.
so sorry because I've seen the different Leica hats. I see the 1989 hat.
You know what this is? And so this is 1989. This is low key. I was wondering how many people would see the 1989, but you got to be a music fan. And especially a pop music fan in order to know the reference.
You said pot or pop?
No, pop.
Okay, good.
So you can see right there. There's a little TS there. This is a Taylor Swift hat.
Get out of from the album.
Yes, this is from the 1989 tour. This is from the 1989 tour for Taylor Swift for the album 1989.
But think about
this
that.
Is my Taylor Swift
for her,
tour
that's a reference to the past. Like it's
I'm bringing back.
And for us, it's like
I remember those days.
Were the glory days.
Yeah,
that's when I was young and impenetrable.
I had all my hair and I don't know.
And it wasn't this color.
Yeah,
and a fast metabolism
and a tight skin.
I could go to Burger King every day of the school week and throw down several of the items off of the dollar menu. Anybody remember the dollar menu?
Oh yeah, that was
jam on those Whopper Juniors and then never have to worry about it.
Never have to worry about it. Yeah.
Well,
this is my
a listener, and this is it. I'm showing you right here on the YouTube. And by the way, let's go through it again. You can text us on the show at the show here on the 710 KNUS app. That's awesome. You can text us at 710knus.com. But you can also apparently see YouTube. Go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Search for the George Brockler Show, 710 KNUS. You subscribe, you get to participate. And I'm showing the folks on YouTube, and I'll do this.
Yeah.
You hear that sound? That's my skull. That was my Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times going back to the 80s.
That was good.
It's an Amazon box, and it was mailed to us.
Yes.
And it's a box full of, I'm making the noise on the radio because now it feels real. I'm going... And there's a bunch of, I guess we can return them, Billy, because we got gift receipts. That's very, very thoughtful. And it's a hat. And I'm opening the hat here. It's hermetically sealed for my protection. But once you pop it, okay, this is good. Look at that. There's a hat former. Billy, you've got yours. There's two things in there that keep the hat. I'm going to describe it as a trucker's hat. because it's got that mesh back. Is that the right way to describe it?
Yeah, it is. Yep, mesh and snapback.
Snapback. Thank you for that. Yep. And the hat I'm taking off, of course, is my rust-colored. I don't know, folks. Rust-colored Yankees hat. Yeah. I'm going to try to get one in every color, whether it's naturally occurring or not. And then here's the hat. It's going on. My sweet mother of large melons. I just tried to put this on my head, and it was like cone head.
Oh, mine too. I was like,
holy huge noggin.
Yeah.
How did my mom do it?
I
know. There we go. Right. Now listen, when the brim is up like this is how the kids wear it.
Oh yeah.
I put on a Rock Canyon hat yesterday that I hadn't molded the brim because you and I grew up in an area where you have to mold it. You mold the brim.
Yep, exactly.
And I put it on. Graham bursts out laughing. Because he's like, Dad, I'm like, don't I look just like totally cool? And he's like, absolutely not. Yeah. You do not look cool at all. You look entirely dorky.
I think we look rad.
So this is, and the hat says, Billy, what does the hat say?
I'm excellent.
Excellent. This is now going to have to be the egg cooking hat.
Oh, yeah.
And for folks that didn't hear those couple days, Billy turned me on to one of the greatest inventions since the wheel. And it's a single egg sandwich maker that, by the way, the boys, every morning. Every morning they're crushing it. Jeff dives in and dives out because he alternates between cereal and that. But the other two boys, man, they're just crushing it on the egg thing. We go through English muffins like they're chiclets.
Yes,
exactly. You know, just gone.
We're buying 2 and 3 packages now. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Joan on the text a while ago was like, you should go to Costco and get the 400 egg, English muffin. So we did. Idea. That's gone too. We have to get another one. But here's the hat. I haven't formed the brim yet, but for folks that are on the YouTube. Oh, another thing.
Yeah.
We've gotten feedback from folks perhaps as high as national to stop calling it the YouTube. The salespeople have said, stop calling it the YouTube.
No.
Yeah. And I'm like, don't you get it? I mean, like, I am poking fun at us elderly types.
Exactly.
You know, the part has to appear in front of every bit of technology.
Yeah.
Are we going to watch the Netflix tonight?
I know, exactly. It has to be.
I can't see
saying sent you a message on the Facebook.
The Facebook. I can't see saying the HBO or the Showtime.
Yeah.
But the Netflix,
the
Amazon Prime, the TikTok.
Absolutely.
So we've been, maybe this will have to be the last day we do it, at least intentionally, but we've been told to stop, to discontinue saying the in front of different social media platforms.
Did they set it in writing? Because otherwise, just a suggestion.
No. Well,
then it's a suggestion.
I bet you now for the sales folks that get up in a couple hours when they listen to this on the podcast, because they have no clue what they're selling. That someone will send in an email. Pretty please, Billy, tell George stop calling it the YouTube. But if you go to YouTube right now, you can see a guy who is nowhere near 14 or 15 wearing a hat like he's 14 or 15 that says I'm excellent on it.
When the brim is flat like this, I feel stupid.
I feel like an idiot. I'm going through the whole show like this for the people that chime in later. They're on the I was about to say on the YouTube, and they're going to be like, what in the world happened to Freak Show?
Yeah, what happened there?
I mean, that guy has lost his bonkers.
You almost got to turn the brim up a little.
It's
bit
a little up. I've got it up right now. I don't want to. I don't want to end the segment.
Look at that! There I am now.
Yeah, Billy's back. High school Billy, folks, on YouTube.
I look like that guy that shows up at the high school and he's just a little too old and he's like, where are you guys gonna buy your weed from?
Narc. No, what do you mean?
Do any of you know where we could get some really cold beer?
What wasn't science today just totally burn?
Yeah, I'm totally bummed about what we can't do today. Yo,
the same crack pipe hitting texter that says you're their new life coach. Said my son likes the flat bill, says it's styling. I believe that. But not on us.
No, we're just not cool enough.
Alexa says parenting and boss advice. Ask if they would make the same choice if the shoe was on the other foot or if the circumstances were 180 degrees different. For today, if kids' parents feel uncomfortable driving in the snow or going to school, they should have the same stance if they were headed to a concert or the airport for a vacation. Great point, man. All those people headed to DIA. So I'm going to read you the language that I think is confounding, not just for parents and school teachers from DCSD, Douglas County School District, but also for the people at those darn TV and radio stations that announce the school closures. Do they call this one school delay closure ? Like they don't know. So it says they're on a normal start day today. However, at another paragraph shortly below, it says, I'm reading this verbatim. Of course, families may decide whether or not to send their children to school today. If you're not comfortable with your children attending school, you may keep them home, and it will be an excused absence. Please be sure to notify your children's schools if you choose to do so. What?
Yeah, what? Why?
We never had this when I went to Belmar or Carmody or Bear Creek, Mullen.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey,
No.
if you're just a little uncomfortable. I remember driving through things where I thought, we may not make it out. Like, do we have enough food to survive the rest of the day if we hit this snowbank, right? Like, nobody's getting my goldfish.
I remember having to walk to the bus trying to figure out, okay, it's got how many inches and which pair of boots, you got to have, and which jacket, and make sure you had your gloves. And then the problem that I've got with that is, they're like, well, if the snow is too tough, and so weather, is that what I call it? If it's too much rain, if it's too hot out, if we're going to call off school based on weather conditions, why is it just the one where we get the condensed water on the ground? I mean, really, I just want to know what the limit is here. And I still think that it's really a bad look for the schools to just say, well, if the weather is just too tough for you to manage, no. And again, the parents are going to call them out anyway. Why?
Billy, we have an actual tube text. Can we call it the tube text? They haven't said anything about that.
It actually sounds extra sexy when you
say
the
tube text. That's triple T.
Yeah.
And it's from us. And it says, the hat is a reference to an episode of regular show on the Cartoon Network. And actually, they didn't even call it the Cartoon Network. They just called it Cartoon. We're now banning articles.
Excellent. Yes, we are. No more.
Billy must be a chilly Willy. That's one. Trucker hats with mesh minnow catchers. Oh, that's a great one. That's a good use for it.
Nice. Yeah.
Dude is bundled up every day like he's going to run the Iditarod.
Yeah.
Billy looks
really
like
cold
an ad for Vision skateboards. I mean,
yes. I was thinking that when I did that, because I used to have the Suicidal Tendencies hat that had suicidal here on the inside. So I had that back in the day. So that's where I had this from. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's becoming clear to me that many of our listeners and engagers with the show may not be below the age of 30.
No.
They may actually be a little more worldly in experience.
And may still be inebriated a little bit from the night before. And I appreciate you, and I'm jealous.
Yes. I bet the sales team wrote that on the Big Chief tablet. Oh, my gosh, the Big Chief tablet.
Oh, yeah.
Can you even have those anymore?
I don't know. And you have a little dotted line through the middle, so you could
dotted lines, or you can get the other ones. But and the feel of the paper was just different, right? But like Big Chief tablet, I still have one in a box, probably near the hats I can't find. But I wonder if you can have that anymore. Because remember, we've gone can't have the Cleveland Indians. Is it the Big Guardian tablet?
Yeah,
now?
What would it be now? I don't know.
Because,
maybe it's just Big Chef. Another change the letters.
By the way, how's that looking for KC? If you're the Super Bowl champ, no one's going to make you change your name. If you're the Washington Redskins, it happens. If you're the Cleveland Indians, it happens.
Yeah, it does.
So you want to keep your name Atlanta Braves? Win, baby. Win, because nobody changes the name of a winner.
It was funny you're talking about the Big Chief tablet, and I was thinking about the fact that that's how you learn to do cursive a lot of times, as far as how you write your letters.
What's cursive, Billy?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going with this one. This past weekend had Spencer, our freshman college student, home, and he puts on this sweatshirt, and I hadn't seen it before. And it has some cursive writing on the front. And I'm like, oh, and I didn't see it. It's straight on. I'm like, oh, what does that say? And he goes, I don't know. It's in French. And I look at him like, it is not in French. That's in cursive. He goes,
holy smokes.
And he just says, he goes, well, French people talk curly anyway. And it just walks away. And
talk
like,
curly? Yeah. That's kind of smart, man. That's pretty funny.
I thought it was very funny. And but it is. It says something like, it's something pals. But it was just kind of it was a silly, stupid cursive statement on the front of his on the front of his sweatshirt. But the fact is, his first response is it's French. I'm like,
that's brilliant. I remember when I was going through grade school, two things that they taught you, one of which I wish I had paid attention to, and that was the typing. When we got into middle school, I just never dedicated myself to it. So I'm a pecker. And that's just the 2-digit guy. Every once in a while I'll throw in a thumb if I'm feeling really aggressive. But my mom would tell me, when I was in school, they taught you shorthand, and she had this, and she used to take notes all the time in shorthand. And I looked at it, and it's probably the way they look at cursive now. I'd look at the shorthand like it was just straight up gibberish.
What is this?
Like it could be Arabic. I mean, I just don't understand the symbols and all that. We don't teach that. That's gone. The typing thing, I think kids learn typing. My kids seem like they're much better at it than I am. So I'm kind of trapped between here and there.
They type so much, and I know there's some instruction early on with my kids, but since they type so much, they're just really, really good at it. Yeah.
I am wanting us now to move so quickly into that, hey, Alexa, what's the weather? And add that to the chat GHB. I don't know if that's what it's called, but I've used my initials. the Chat GHB, so that I don't ever have to use my thumbs if I don't want to. I can just
absolutely.
say things to it like, hey, Alexa, please send something witty text-wise to Graham.
Yes,
and it's just like, and it cranks it out. I don't have to do anything except say things out loud.
Yeah. Explain to my wife why I should not be in trouble anymore.
Yeah,
thank you.
And this will be the one where you break the Chat GHB.
Exactly.
It's going to come back and say, I'm sorry, I have nothing. Or 404 error page.
Yeah, or it is your fault. Shut up.
Just says 2 words or 3 words. Sorry, good math. I did it.
Yeah, I did it. Yes.
I did it. You caught me.
Yep.
Listen, here's where we're at. I want to tell you about something else. It's going to be informative to listen to. It's not as fun, but it is great to listen to, and that is Advanced Colorado. When I say it's not as fun, Michael Fields from Advanced Colorado does a wonderful job on this. I used to do a podcast with him. Wonderful job. He's got a great sense of humor, but he is much more the straight man to my goofy Jeff Spicoli, but at age 50-something. He is much straight. He's Mr. Hand. I am Jeff Spicoli. And he does a podcast where I've just started going back through just the last 4 weeks. 1, it's regular, which is great. But 2, fantastic local information about some of the stuff you did not know was going on. Some of these folks, I'm like, man, why didn't we do that on the radio? It's really cool stuff. It's kind of taken off. Go check it out on all of your podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify or Amazon podcast, whatever it is, go check it out. It's everywhere, and take a listen. Now, when we come back, we're going to do the good stuff. And that is, of course, the Thorpe Report, and You Choose the News. Yesterday, as you know, we blew it up because we were talking, and we got callers and stuff like that. We had Dr. Julia call in. Sounded like she had a little alcohol on board as she was getting ready to jump into surgery, but that's okay. I mean, even Dr. Julia operating at a 0.03, 0.04 is better than most people stone cold sober. And that is exactly what she has told me at a bar. Nonetheless, we're going to come back and do the good stuff. Stick around. It's George Brockler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Every time I hear this song, I think of Reservoir Dogs. Can't help but think of it. Billy is rocking the I'm excellent hat as he is now skewed it. He's now 12. He's somehow regressed.
I'm down with the kids.
Also,
I'm rad.
True to form, the
totally
human embodiment, frankly, the source and the inspiration for Amazon's Alexa device is the real life Alexa. And we asked, where can you get a Big Chief tablet? What shows up in the text here on the 710 KNUS app?
Yeah.
It's a screenshot from Alexa off of Amazon. You can get the Big Chief tablet, including the great Big Chief pictures, for it looks like under $6.
Wow.
I think Big Daddy may order one or two of those things because they were awesome. I may practice cursive all over again. Alexa, thank you.
That is funny because it was probably 7 months ago. I ran across at one of those dollar stores.
No, yeah.
So, well, it moved quickly and I had to swerve. I went to the dollar store and they had one of the old school Peachy folders, with the athletes and stuff on them. Yeah.
Oh, Peachies.
So, yes.
Where are the Peachies?
They were
Alexa, where can I get Peachies?
They were at I want to say they were at the dollar store or Family Dollar. I don't remember where it was, but they had a stack of them. I'm like,
brand new?
Yeah. And so I pulled off like 7 of them and I come home with the kids. I'm like, look, kids, I have these. You can take them. Like, Dad, you're stupid. I'm like, no,
they're so
these
cool.
are. I'm like, they
and
are
you're
not
coloring
cool.
in the shorts and the shoes and making little notes and drawing things.
So now I have Peachy folders at home and I'll take them. And when I'm going to other events and things, I'll put the stuff in the Peachies and I show up and every adult is like, oh, that is
exactly.
so awesome.
Peachies were a substitute for learning in several classes, right?
Were.
They ended up becoming things that were Smithsonian quality art, but probably at the expense of some learning. Somebody has
creativity.
Someone has texted in here, Billy Force. You guys need to adopt the term bussin'.
Oh, yes.
Like dude, that hat is totally bussin'.
It is totally bussin'. Bro.
Is that
totally bussin'?
Is that a contraction of like busting or something?
I have no idea.
Or is bussin' a thing? Like
it just seems to come out of my youngest daughter's mouth a lot. So
really?
I have no idea. I don't know what it means. I know that dinner last night was bussin', so I'm assuming that was good. I don't know.
The last time Amanda was in town, and I've reached out to her to be on the radio today for one of the topics we discussed off air, but she was saying things and instantly the boys jump onto it. She's like, oh my gosh, that is such fire. That is fire. I'm like, or flame. I'm like, what does that mean? Just mean hot? Can you just say hot or
how come we're not?
What are we doing? But nonetheless, listen, we're at that critical moment in the show where we make decisions about whether or not to press on or just turn it all off and leave you with dead air, which frankly could be a step up. I'm not sure. It would be harder for me to respond to the text from abroad, but I've done it. Nonetheless, prepare yourselves, folks. And if you can't see Billy on YouTube right now, you're missing out on something. Frankly, I look like a dork, but Billy, people will not be surprised if you pull out from under your desk right there a brown paper covered bottle of some sort of medicine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's what is the swizzle? No, what is it? The syrup. Yeah. I'm having the
Is that what they're calling it?
Yes, that's what I'm having this morning.
Flame.
Yeah. Like right here,
flame.
It's supposed to be. No, it's rum, actually.
That's great. Nonetheless, folks, let's pull the wrapper off this thing and get to business. It is now time for the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news, William.
All righty. Good morning, sir. As we were talking about on top of the snow that has fallen overnight in my bussin' hat that you can see on YouTube, I expect to see another 1 to 3 inches to fall throughout the day today. Snow totals are probably going to pile up to between 3 to 8 inches total in Denver. Heavier snow totals are going to be south and west of the city. Expect slick conditions as you are driving around this morning. It was a little slippery and slidey as I was coming in, but not really ice. It's just going to be the packed snow that's going to get underneath your tires. Several dozen flights have already been canceled or delayed at Denver International Airport in advance of the winter storm that was hitting. As of 4 o'clock this morning, last word that I got was 71 flights have been canceled at DIA. 41 are delayed so far, and that's it. Excuse me. Affected airlines are Southwest, of course. They've canceled 10% of their scheduled flights. Surprised it's not more than that. Frontier has canceled 13% of their flights, and SkyWest is also reporting some cancellations and delays. United right now is just operating under a delay. So check before you leave your house and head out to the airport. Now, on Monday afternoon, Denver police said a 16-year-old East High student was shot and critically wounded near the end of the school day, and 2 teenagers, 16 and 17, were arrested after the shooting. As of yesterday afternoon, neither suspect faces charges specifically related to the shooting, however, but it's early. We'll see what happens. Family members have identified the victim as Luis Garcia. His older brother said that he can't talk right now or open his eyes, but he was able to squeeze family members' hands, so he's trying his best, and we do see signs of life in him. The brother describes his younger brother as a hard worker, says he's a loyal friend, spirit of the family. family in September. Also, a freshman from the school, you may remember, was shot in the face just a block from campus. Data showing a rise in teen violence is a problem that's facing Denver East and a few other areas of town. Last year, we saw a 15% increase in filings of juvenile charges across Colorado.
15% increase?
Yeah, 15% increase.
That's so interesting. And
Yeah.
I think I'd mentioned this before. The legislature is toying around with the idea of increasing the age of eligibility for the juvenile justice system from 11 to 13. That'll probably reduce those numbers, and they'll come back and say, we've reduced juvenile filings by dozens or whatever.
Yes.
Many cases.
We dropped it by 3 percentage points by simply not filing more
We've
cases.
decriminalized DUIs, and the arrests have plummeted.
Yes, the arrests have plummeted because we decided not to arrest them.
Unbelievable.
So, Denver Police Department is asking for your help in identifying a driver who fatally struck a pedestrian on I-70 on Sunday evening. It happened right around 8 o'clock in the evening, I-70 just near North Paco Street. Authorities say a Honda struck a pedestrian who then died from the injuries. The driver did not stop after the crash. They don't know the year and model of a Honda at this time. Denver police say that the vehicle will have significant front end and undercarriage damage. Yeah, complete coward at that one. And after passing bills to add more price transparency to end surprise medical billing in recent legislative sessions, the Colorado legislature is back at it again. It's a Senate bill that is going to try to cap interest rates on medical bills, requires more price transparency, pauses debt collection on bills, and a bunch of other things. It is noting that about 58% of debts that are being collected are on medical bills right now.
So wait a minute, we're delaying the collection of the medical bills?
Just making it so that things like if you are disputing the medical bill, they can't continue to try to get you in collections. They also, if you're disputing it, you're in the process of adjudicating it, they can't continue to charge you interest on that bill. Things like that just end up, if there's a disagreement about whether or not you should pay for it or not, they just end up lumping on a whole bunch of other money at the tail end of it that, again, ends up 9 times out of 10, at least 50% of the time in collections. And there's a bill that was introduced in the Colorado legislature that aims to authorize a study of motorcycle lane splitting. Currently in Colorado, a motorcycle driver cannot pass a vehicle by driving in the same lane or between rows of vehicles, which is known as lane splitting. But a motorcyclist would be able to get between cars when they're going less than 40 miles per hour. Said it gives him legal authority to get out of the way of a car that doesn't see me, as one of the sponsors. And they're going to say the study would look at the pros and cons of legalizing lane splitting.
Hold on. So the car that is driving in such a way that it can't see you, the best thing to do is to put yourself up next to that car.
Yeah, exactly. Into the blind spot.
Like in between that car and another car.
Yeah.
That's genius. I don't know. If you've ever driven in a state like California that does that, it scares the bejesus out of you.
Yeah. It does. And part of it is the issue that I've got is I respect motorcyclists out there. The thing that we have to keep in mind is in the eventuality of a car motorcycle interaction.
Well, that won't happen.
Regardless of whose fault it is, the motorcycle loses all the time.
There's
right. Never a time in which
that's just straight up physics.
Yeah.
Right. Like I try to tell my kids, you can have the right of way. Physics don't care.
Yeah. Doesn't care at all.
Doesn't care at all. Now, listen, we're at that special place during the show where I want to cut away for a break. And when we come back, of course, we're going to, this is the dessert. You have just now had the peas, carrots, broccoli, and whatever that dry meat was that your mom pulled out of the oven. It's now time for the delicious dessert. We call that You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brockler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Well, a blast from the past here. If you're on the podcast, you don't know it's Hey Jealousy, but we do right here. Listen, with the time that we have allotted, I'm going to yield it to the master himself to take us through You Choose the News.
Good morning, sir. Yes, it is that time again where you and I get to play everybody's favorite radio news game show, You Choose the News, where we have scoured the interwebs to find ridiculous stories, giving them stupid titles to play this fake radio news game. Why? Well, because Steve Irwin's Outdoor Adventure Park has a brand new thing for you to try today. Yes, it is something you can explore here in Colorado. But first, before we get to that, we must play the game. All righty, sir. Here are your headlines this morning. Headline number 1, Thirst Trap. Headline number 2, Follow Your Dreams Somewhere Else. Headline number 3, That's What She Said. And headline number 4, So the Memes Are Right. All righty, sir. Your choices again this morning are Thirst Trap, Follow Your Dreams Somewhere Else. That's What She Said. And So the Memes Are Right. Your choice, sir.
Billy, you have cheated me out of the tells. Like, there's no poop there. There's no crime there. So now I'm going to have to go Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. So we're doing That's What She Said.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. In Spain now, they've got a problem. See, they're trying to redo their commuter trains. They've got 31 commuter trains that have been ordered by Renfe in 2020. They're set to replace an aging fleet. It's a poorly connected northern autonomous region in Spain. And they've got a problem, though. They've ordered these brand new, beautiful trains, and they're about to be delivered, but someone made a mistake. It's a 19th century regional rail network that runs through mountainscapes and has a lot of tunnels. And there's a problem. The tunnel sizes vary. So, Renfe ordered 31 commuter trains that aren't going to fit in the tunnel. Yes, it's too big to go in the tunnel. At least that's what she said. So, yeah.
Wait.
So,
I see what we've done here.
See what we did. See the cleverness that we have inside there. Yeah.
Listen, I don't want this. Is there any possible fix? Like, could they coat the train in some sort of a lubricant? I don't know if that's
maybe
possible.
If it was cold, there would be some shrinkage. I don't know. This is awful.
Billy,
we should move on from this, or I'm going to get us in trouble. I will be the one.
I feel like you just did, but maybe I encouraged it.
Yes.
Oh, sweet
your
Lord.
Next choice: Thirst Trap, Follow Your Dreams Somewhere Else, or So the Memes Are Right.
So the memes are right?
So the memes are right. Well, we travel to Washington to this one because there seems to be an actual, no, we're going to travel. It's British scientists. Sorry, that came out of Washington. Is where I get the AP story. But it comes, British scientists at the University College of London say they have surveyed men between the ages of 18 and 74. And they found out that, yes, the memes are right. At least according to this study, there is somewhat of a link between wanting to own a sports car and having a tiny manhood.
What?
Yes, they
that's a real thing. That's not just something people say.
Well, at least in this study, it is not a peer-reviewed study yet. But what they did is they told one group of guys, here's the average length of a guy's, and then they told another group a different length, and then they asked them about sports cars and whether or not it appealed to them, and they found out that the guys that thought that they had the smaller, family crest, wanted the sports car more than guys that thought they already had the supersized version of the family crest.
So based on the car I'm driving, Billy, I'm really quite gifted.
You are.
I feel like if there's any correlation, when Billy pulls out the Mercedes, is it when it's cold out?
Yes, it is. It is.
Because
when we're feeling inadequate.
That's two stories that you found a way to fit in here. And a fit in is not some sort of a euphemism.
And my wife says that happens all the time to other people too. So
as she pats your head, you're still my Billy.
Yes, you still are. Your final choice this morning: Thirst Trap or Follow Your Dreams Somewhere Else.
I'm so scared now. I feel like this next one will be the last one. Like forever.
Exactly.
This is when Brian comes in and says, "Hey, You Choose the News thing. R.I.P.
It's
Move
over.
on."
Yeah, that's it.
I'm going to go with Thirst Trap.
Thirst Trap in Salem, Oregon. Well, an internal investigation launched by the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission that was attained by the Associated Press via public records found out that the executive director, Steve Marks, and 5 other agency officials decided that their government jobs were worth diverting rare bottles of bourbon. Yes, they had decided that while they did pay for the whiskey, which can cost thousands of dollars per bottle, they used their knowledge and connections at the commission to obtain the bottles before the public actually had the ability to purchase them. So what they did is, while the very expensive bottles of bourbon were being shipped into Oregon, they said, "Come here, sir. Let's open the boxes and let's see what we have in there, because we want to have first dibs." So, yeah, but what, if you can't get, first shot at the bourbon, well, what good is being a government official? Well, that's the end of You Choose the News. As always, George is our perennial winner, and I'm a giant loser. But today we have an adventure for you. Yes, Steve Irwin's Adventure Park wants you to explore a Colorado adventure called Things You Can Lick While Hiking in the Forest. Yes,
What?
Enjoy the Colorado outdoors,
You
can explore nature like never before with this fully interactive hiking guide. Yes, what is lickable and what is merely going to make your legs go numb. Find all of that out today, and you can get 50% off. That's it. Back to you, sir.
Billy, the timing has been perfect if the content wasn't questionable and perhaps even objectionable, both legally and morally. Nonetheless, buckle up, folks. When we come back, former district attorney for Denver, Mitch Morrissey, he's going to tell us something we feel and see every day, but now there's numbers behind it. If you live in Denver, lock the doors. It's George Brockler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Billy, is this going to get to the point where we can actually sing the song? Mitch Morrissey. There it is. Mitch Morrissey. I say the name and I sing it because that's who's on our VIP line right now. Former district attorney for, I think, about 40 years. Maybe it was 12, but like 40 years in Denver. Mitch, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, George. How are you today?
I'm great, man. Listen, as you know, we have done some work for the Common Sense Institute over the last couple years. There's two things I wanted to talk about. One is sort of an accolade of sorts, an honor, if you will, and then the report that was just generated. First off, tell us about the changes to the Criminal Justice Fellowship that you and I get to be the beneficiaries of.
Well, it's, we were able to get former Governor Owens and former District Attorney Norm Early. The fellowship is named for them, and it's a great honor to be one of the first fellows now that it's named for them. Both of them were known for not only doing what they could to protect victims of crime, but also to work on things around crime issues while they served the public. You know, we lost Norm Early last year, so to have this named for him by his son Kendall okayed that and really played a role in the press release that was done and was interested in the Common Sense Institute. So it's a great honor for me to be one of the first fellows, you being the other, for the Institute, now that it's been named for these two gentlemen.
Now, you know and knew Norm way better than I did. The last time I saw Norm was at the National Black Prosecutors Association meeting that we finally had held after like decades in Aurora, and Norm got to come there. And what's fitting about that, and I don't know that people appreciate truly the impact Norm had on the Denver metro area, but he started that organization and it is thriving now. And it covers all these black prosecutors across the country doing great work for them in terms of support and training and advocacy and recruiting. And that's just one thing that Norm did, but he was truly impactful in Denver.
Yeah, and he was one of the first founding members of the Sam Gary Bar, also just the Black Bar Association for the state of Colorado. Norm was a great guy to work for, George, and I learned a lot from him by watching him, not only in court, because he would try cases, but also out in the public. He would take young deputies out with him, and we would go to high schools around Denver and talk about how it wasn't worth it driving under the influence of alcohol. We had a partner in that program that had been in a serious accident. He was a quadriplegic, and he would tell his story. And then, of course, Norm would let us, as brand new deputies, he'd let us address these kids and explain what we did in county court prosecuting DUIs. And he knew how to bring people that worked with him into what was the message of the Denver District Attorney's Office. And I always appreciated that about him, learned a lot about how to run that place once I took over from Bill Ritter. So Norm, then Bill, then me.
There was a funny moment in the election to replace you as district attorney that took place some years ago. And it was, and again, politicians make mistakes. It's not this happened to just Beth, but you may remember this. Beth put out on social media, "I'll be the first non-white male to serve as district attorney in Denver." And then someone shot back, I think it was on Twitter, "Somebody tell Norm."
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I get the honor of being in the Bill Owens Fellowship. I imagine they didn't run that by Governor Owens, because had they known, I'm sure he'd be like, "Ooh, can we keep looking? Not that guy." But Governor Owens was probably, over the last however many decades, the strongest on public safety that we have seen in a long, long time. He pushed really hard on public safety issues with the legislature. He wrote a ton of columns. He was way out in front on things like the death penalty and other issues that I think he could see coming down the road. And he has not lost at all his interest in wanting to advocate for a better, safer Colorado for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which he and his family live here. And so it's a real honor for me. And obviously you and I have had the opportunity to get to see Governor Owens and some of the other great folks at CSI. They have put out now another report in a long line of reports. And this one is specific to your city, my friend. Tell us what
Yes.
they've discovered.
Well, CSI is doing great work when it comes to the crime issue that's confronting every city in Denver and in Colorado, the state of Colorado. And Dr. Stephen Byers and Cole Anderson knocked it out of the park with this report. It is a long report, but it is primarily filled with graphs and charts that are describing what is going on down to the neighborhood level.
Yeah, it's almost 100
Usually-
pages, but
Yeah.
it's chocked full of research and data. This isn't just an opinion piece. This is legit analysis.
Yeah, and it is, and it's coming out at an appropriate time. You know, we've got a mayor's race, we've got city council races in Denver. And so if somebody living in one of the council districts wants to know what's going on in their area, wants to know how they're being represented, thinking about different people, candidates, those kinds of things. I think there's like 25, 27 people running for mayor. This would give you the kind of information you need to ask those people. How are you going to approach this problem in my neighborhood, in my part of the city, or in the city in general? And so I think it's a very timely report. It's not a real positive report, George. You know that.
No, it's not.
Denver ranks in the top 10 in 3 major crimes, in comparison to other cities over 100,000 people in population. It's no surprise to anybody listening to this that Denver is 3rd in auto thefts in those cities, ranked 3rd.
Not to be confused with the whole state of Colorado ranking 1st amongst all states.
Right.
Denver is of the 100+ cities, major cities that they surveyed, 3rd in America. Wow.
Right. Colorado's 1st, Denver's 3rd for those cities. As far as a state comparison and a city comparison, 6th in property crime in those city comparisons. And then sadly,
this is awful. Yeah.
In sexual assault
10th.
or rape type crimes. And, you know, the sad thing about that, George, is during COVID, we did see that being one of the major crimes that was going down. And the city was shut down, bars were shut down, people were, you know, locked up in their houses, and sex assaults went down. They're going back up, and now, you know, Denver's 10th in that horrible crime. And I know you prosecuted those cases. The impact that has on victims, it's life-changing.
Oh my gosh.
It's just sad to see. It's sad to see.
Look, for what it's worth, as we continue this conversation, we have texters that can text into the show as they're listening. We also are on YouTube. First off, please subscribe, Mitch. But one of the texters has texted in, love Mitch and his hair. So there you go. You've got that from some of the
listeners. Send yourself texts
I did
on that thing, George. You're
That's
always
just,
pimping me about my hair.
It's just so good. Nonetheless.
Well, the other thing that's disappointing is that, you know, the crime rate's up 43% since 2019. And if you go back a little further, which is what we always like to do at the Common Sense Institute, is to look at trends,
That's
look
right,
at things that may have caused something that was passed 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's up 75% since 2008.
Good grief.
So here's
the other, when you talked about the number of cars stolen in Denver, that number, it is just 20 shy of 15,000 vehicles were stolen. What I love is, and I'm only going to take a teeny tiny bit of credit for this, but taking those statistics and making them relatable to people matters. Did you see how that 15,000 compares to parking at the Denver Broncos games?
Yeah, it would be the equivalent of 3 home games in all of the parking lots surrounding Denver the stadium where the Broncos play.
Every single car stolen.
That's how many cars were stolen last year in Denver. 15,000 cars.
It's just insane. Yeah. And then to talk about the district breakdown and the timing of this with the mayoral race, this is important because you have people that represent some districts in city council who are actually running for mayor. Now, we had talked about, could we break this down by, you know, Senate district, House district, because we have some of those, and there's really no good way to do it, but there is, because of the way DPD collects information, a great way to do it by city council district. What did we discover?
Well, we have one outstanding leader when it comes to crime incidents. It's sad. Council District 9, which is kind of the northern east part. Obviously Denver goes all the way out, Green Valley Ranch, all of that. That's not House District 9, but House District 9 is more around that Colorado Boulevard area, north up there. And it's about 9% of the population, about 20%, a little over 20% of the crime incidents happen for the whole city in House District 9.
Isn't that crazy? 9% of the population, 20% of the crime. What about those who might push back and say, well, it's over-policed?
Well, I think you'd have to talk to the people in those neighborhoods.
True.
I don't believe they're calling for cutting police. They have, on average, 44 crime incidents a day in House District 9. And I can't believe anybody that's on the short end of those crimes wants no police coverage, wants nobody coming when they call. The crime fell in House District 9 between 2014 and 2018. And this is a significant rise that we've seen since 2018 through 2022. So you need to go and look at these incidents, look what kind of crimes they are. And you can do that with this report. You can do this online and get the report. Look at all this, look at where you live, and, demand answers from people that are going to represent you in city council. Demand answers from people that are running for mayor. If you ever get a chance to talk to all 25 of them. And that's
Is it 25 now?
I think it's 25,
oh my
27.
God, I said 17 yesterday. I've clearly not been tracking this. Well, 25. Are you running?
No, George.
That
I'm
means
not running.
you're the only one in Denver currently not running for mayor. By the way, you could have gotten $9 matching for every dollar you raised. So at least up to $50. That seems like a win.
Yeah, well, they have an interesting new system, and obviously it doesn't apply to people that run for state office like the DA's office. So I never paid that much attention to it. But if you're a Denver resident and you want to give them some money, and just a Denver resident, there's a matching program now that helps them a lot. So they're very interested in people that are living in Denver. If you're not living in Denver, it's just a donation.
It appears that the sequel to Escape from New York is not just Escape from Los Angeles. It's going to be Escape from District 9. Who is the current city council representative for District 9?
I'm not sure, George. I get them.
Oh, I'm going to look
confused.
it up. Oh, I'm getting it. I'm looking it up because that person, if they're running for mayor, huh?
Her name is Sita Baca.
Oh.
I don't believe she's running for mayor. I think she's running
for the socialist.
She's running for re-election, but not running for mayor. She's one of the few people that aren't.
Some of these percentage increases, Mitch, that I'm seeing on some of these tables here. And by the way, if you want to go look at the report, and I encourage you to do it, there's a synopsis, there's a one-pager, but then there's also this 98-page report. Go to Common Sense Institute CO. Why the CO part? And that's .org. Because Common Sense Institute is a model that has been so successful here in Colorado, it's going across the nation. Unfortunately, they haven't invited Mitch or I yet to be part of that grand tour, but they're in Arizona. I think they're going, I want to say North Carolina. Mitch, you may remember some other states, but Common Sense Institute CO.org. Here's some other numbers that I just found to be surprising. For Denver alone, crimes against person, crimes against people, those are the generally the big ones. Between 2018 and 2022, just those 4 or 5 years increased 22.3%.
Yeah.
Property crimes increased 60%, 59.5% in just those 4 years. I mean, Mitch, this is all after you left office, right?
Yes, it's all after I left office. Although, George, I got to admit that this started to happen about the time I was leaving office. The other thing I think you got to understand
hold on,
30%.
I'm going to defend you because between 2014 and 2018, crimes against people only went up 3.2% and property crimes 6.6%. So I realized that crime was increasing as you were leaving, but you cannot be blamed for that catastrophic change.
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of things that can. Our first report, indicated a lot of long-term things that were done by the Colorado legislature. They were policy things that were put in place that were starting to all come together at about that time. to give the impact that it's had on Colorado. We traced that back with auto theft, 2014, when they started decriminalizing auto theft, lowering the level of crime, making a lot of it a misdemeanor. We saw a huge increase in crime. That happened in 2014. Then in 2019, you see another reduction, higher valued cars down to misdemeanors, and boom, you see that big increase. And just a little over 30% of these crime incidents in Colorado are auto theft or theft from motor vehicle. They're the catalytic converter gangs that are out there stealing those. It's auto theft. And that, it gets repetitive. I mean, the state of Colorado's number one. Denver's number 3 in these cities in auto theft. And it's finally, George, someone is listening to us. We've been ringing this bell for 2 years, 3 years.
That's right.
There's a bill in the legislature to go back to some of those felony levels for auto theft. And who knows, it might take almost the same amount of time to see the impact. I hope it doesn't. I hope we start to see these auto theft numbers drop. But the crimes against person numbers, they break your heart, because there is a victim out there that is suffering at the hands of a rapist, that's being robbed, that's being attacked in some way. And to have those numbers go up, it just, I don't know. It's devastating to me to see that.
The other part of this thing too is that even though I like the direction that they're taking, I don't want people to think that's the fix that's needed, because there's still the issue of bail and bond that goes unaddressed. And that means a locally elected district attorney, and we want to keep them that way, can make the decision to just seek low or no bail for a car thief. And so, it was the case that Denver, after you, had been seeking a truckload of PR bonds for people. That got blew up by Sean Boyd and Tony Kowaleski, the investigative reporters. And then all of a sudden, now they're seeking $1 and $5 bonds for the same folks. So changing the classification of the motor vehicle theft statute, that's a big deal. It's not as big a deal as the promise of prison at the back end, or even guaranteeing that these folks will have to stay in jail until they can put up something meaningful, or at least until the case resolves. Putting criminals who are inclined to commit repeat crimes back on the street means you get repeat crimes. And that's what we've discovered is what's taking place with motor vehicle theft, which, Mitch, since you've left office 2018 to 2022, brace yourself, man, Denver has seen a 176% increase in car theft in just those 4 years.
When you get caught in Denver stealing a car in the gang you're running with that night, you get arrested. You will be back with the gang that next evening. They'll ask you what was going on. Well, I got popped by the cops. I got in front of a judge. I got out. They're going to be out the next day, running with the same ring, stealing the same cars. They might appear in court. During COVID, it was easy to call in if you had a cell phone. You didn't even have to go down to the courthouse. They weren't failing to appear. And that's what they kept saying. Well, they're not failing to appear at a higher rate. No, it's what they're doing the next night after they get released. And that's what I like about this bill, is that it's a more serious auto theft. It's a more serious felony if you are a 2-time repeat auto thief. So you've got to recognize that people that are 5, 6, 7, 11-time convicted felons, when you give them a PR bond, they are professional criminals. They are going back out on the street, and they are committing an abundance of crimes before they even have to appear again. And what they were seeing in Denver was numerous PR bonds for an individual that may have 5 felonies. Prior felony convictions. They were seeing that, after about the 4th, 5th time, it was like, okay, maybe we'll set a decent bond for this person. And it's just, the professional criminal must love this, George.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, hey, no downtime. I'm going back on the streets.
Not just no downtime, but even after they follow the courts, or the DAs follow the advice of Attorney General Weiser, who said after 3 or 4 stolen cars in a 3-month period, you give them a high bond because you get the sense that they might keep committing the same crime. I usually get a sense earlier than that. There's no prison at the back end of this. You look at who's in prison. It isn't car thieves. It's other folks. And our prison population, as you know, Mitch, has dropped. If you go back 10 years, total prison population, private, state, probably somewhere north, just north of 17,000. 10 years later, despite a 12% increase in the population of the state of Colorado and surge in crime, the prison population has decreased to 15,000. If there's no consequences, that's it.
Yeah. And, you know, when I was DA, we put together programs where we focused on repeat offenders and realizing that if you went after career criminal burglars, like we did with our DNA burglary study, and you treated them differently than the first timer, he's not going to go to prison. When you treated him even second time, that type of thing. But anybody that was an habitual criminal, I told my people, listen, if we catch them with DNA or fingerprints, they plead to the charge. And if they can do simple math, that's the difference between 10 years and habitual criminal time, depending on which one they were. But it saved them a lot of time. The average sentence of over 100 burglars, I think it was a couple hundred, was 11 years. And guess what happened to the burglary rate? We thought we'd push burglars out of Denver to your jurisdiction.
Thank you,
to Jefferson
by the way.
County. We didn't. Georgia went down in the entire metro area.
Look at that. I love
These
that.
guys-
I love that too, because as you know, what happens in Denver doesn't stay in Denver. It's the opposite of Vegas. What the crimes that surge in Denver don't stay within the borders. They trickle out into all the surrounding counties.
These guys had no idea. They were pulling so many burglaries. They had no idea if they were in Adams County, if they were in Denver, if they were, you know, in Aurora. But the one thing that I think this study shows is a lot of those folks are in House District 9. 44 crimes a day on average, crime incidents out there. Somebody has to step up and say, listen, we need to do something to help those people that are living in House District 9, that are living in Denver, that are facing, you know, the possibility of their car being stolen, I think on a daily basis. I talk to people that they've had their car stolen 2 or 3 times. As a matter of fact, they helped the police by saying, listen, I looked at the receipts from the thief that were on the floorboard of my car. The next time the car got stolen, I said, hey, go down to the McDonald's. This guy goes there every day. At this time, you'll find my car. And they found his car. The sad thing is we're seeing vigilante acts now, or people taking it in their own hands to go after their car, to go after their stolen items. And, you know, they result in violence sometimes. They result in the victims being hurt, or even, you know, the thieves being hurt. But nobody wants to be in the middle of something like that or see that happening in our city. So this is a very important report. It's the first of, I think, many more that are going to be directed towards cities. We're going to do Pueblo. We're going to do Grand Junction, I think, next.
Yep.
And those places that have races, that have mayors that are running, that have city council. Or
we're doing one for Aurora too, coming up in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got to do that. I mean, so people they're armed with the data, the real data, to be able to question people that want to be the leaders of our cities, that want to be the leaders of our state. And that's why I think the work of the Common Sense Institute with this fellowship is so important.
Agreed. I probably see you down at the Capitol on some of these bills that we're working on with them as well. Mitch Morrissey, former Denver District Attorney, current Norm Early Crime Fellow for the Common Sense Institute. Thanks for joining us, my man. We'll have you on again.
Thanks for having me, George. You have a good morning.
You too. It's kind of disturbing news coming out of Denver, but it's not like you heard anything where you aren't like, duh, I know that's what's going on. Before we cut away for a quick break, I want to tell you about something, especially as Mitch finishes up with the discussion of there's a growing sense of people needing to try to protect themselves when they worry about a crime rate, and maybe the police aren't in a position to get there when they should. Let's talk Tanner Gun Show. Oh yeah, part due. This one, folks, is at the Arapahoe County Fairgrounds. Here's the beautiful thing about that. Not only do you get all the lowest prices on the new and hard to find used guns, knives, ammo, AR accessories, hunting supplies, concealed carry classes, and a ton of other cool stuff. It's just too much to read in one breath. You get them about 30% off, less than big box stores. But here's the cool thing about where it's located. Arapahoe County has one of the lowest sales tax rates in all of Colorado. Booyah. It is Friday, 3 to 7, Saturday, 9 to 5, and Sunday, 10 to 4. You buy a ticket for one day, you can have access all 3 days. Now, you can get them at the door, of course, but if you want to make things easy, just go online at TannerGunShow.com. Tanner has 2 N's in it. TannerGunShow.com and check it out, man. If I'm around, I got to check my schedule. I might even try to swing by there. That one's a little too deep, and it's inside the 18th Judicial District. When we come back, we'll have your thoughts on this. Got some texts that are coming in here. Does it surprise you at all about Denver? Should this be the issue for a Denver mayor, or is there something bigger than this? George Brockler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. There really is no rest for the wicked. The proof is Billy and I here in the 5 o'clock hour. George Brockler back with you in the second hour of the George Show for 710 KNUS, continuing to go through this report that former district attorney and current Norm Early fellow from the Common Sense Institute was talking about. Some of these things are just nuts. Now, if you just looked at it, it's a 98-page thing, but there's colors and graphs and pictures, and it's just so easy to digest. But here's something. As a share of crime in Denver, I'm just eyeballing this. If you banned motor vehicles from Denver, just got rid of them, crime would be reduced, crime incidents, by 1/3. And here's why. Auto theft makes up 15.2% of crime in Denver. Theft from a motor vehicle, those are your smash and grab folks, or maybe you've left your door unlocked, 17%. And there's no category bigger than that. You add those together and you get 32.3%. That tells me we are danger close to 33%, which is 1/3. Exo, posto, facto, whatever that is, res ipsa loquitur, expelliarmus, that is 1/3 of all crime in Denver is from cars. So if you're looking for another reason, green tree hugging people, to get rid of cars, you can now run on the idea that not only will it have negligible impact on the climate anywhere on the planet, but you can also reduce crime in Denver by up to 1/3. If you drive or park in Denver, the question after this report has to be why? What's the point? And maybe that's where they're going with all this stuff. But the average monthly crime rate per 1,000 residents, it's another one. It's ridiculous. The percent increase on that, on crimes against person, we're talking about things like assaults and batteries, things like that, up 22.3%. Now, listen, murder. You probably want to know about murder. That's a big one. I still don't think that's the real tell. I think attempted murder is the real tell because, as we've talked about before, the technology and medicine has advanced so much in the last 10 or 20 years. People that woulda, coulda, shoulda died from their murder-related injuries back when I started as a prosecutor are now surviving them, and that turns into an attempted murder charge. But here's what murder did. Between 2018 and 2022, and it was static, 0% increase. However, the reason for that may be because between 2014 and 2018, it increased by 267% in Denver. That's murder. 303-696-1971 is our number. Of course, we honor and love the callers. David, you're on 710. What do you think, sir? David, it keeps saying David from San Francisco. Are you in San Francisco right now?
Oh, yeah, still dark.
Are you there? Are you in San Francisco?
Yeah, they're down in the Mission.
Well, dang it. Well, that's the reason we ask is we tell the listeners and they put it up here on our little YouTube channel. What do you got for us, my friend?
Well, you remember that old Aesop's fables about don't put all your eggs in one basket?
I've heard something like that. I don't know if that was Aesop, but yes, I've heard that.
Yeah, a true conservative doesn't put all their eggs in one basket. They spread the load around. You know, a true conservative is slow and steady. A true conservative makes sure that there are other options.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start looking at being trapped by the oil and gas boys, oh, they can't have biodiesel. Oh, they can't have electric cars. Oh, they can't have mass transit. Oh, they can't have so much competition in the like the bus systems around the state. Like 100 years ago, there were stagecoaches that went to all different parts of the state. You know, that was their bus system, so to speak. And a whole bunch of, just one guy had his stagecoach.
Are you going to tell me that in Denver, nobody stole stagecoaches? Is that where we're, because you're doing the comparison to the stolen cars, or where are we going with the crime thing, my friend?
Well, what I'm leading up to is that the America is being looted in a massive way. Just like the oil and gas boys suck the money out of town every minute. And it goes either to Saudi Arabia or Russia or Texas or whatever, but it's not staying in the state. And it's electronic money. It's gone before you leave the parking lot. So the idea that
Just
Colorado,
a quick aside, because this has nothing to do with the crime thing so far, but just as an aside, you're talking about the local oil and gas producers here take the money they make producing it and they give it to the people in Saudi Arabia?
If you were to look at the electronic transfer out of the state, and then you were to break it up into which categories it would go overseas, does it stay in America? Does it go to Texas? Does it go to friggin' Pennsylvania? Wherever, it doesn't stay in Colorado. Now, a true conservative would want to make sure that money stayed in Colorado, that Colorado didn't become a colony of the oil and gas.
Why did you conclude that that's a conservative principle, that you don't want people to spend money elsewhere? Where is that written?
Spend money elsewhere. In other words, that of, say, like the average person is what, 15% of their monthly money, their salaries or wages, about 15% of it is dedicated to their car. And how much of that money is sucked out of town as soon as they go to the gas station?
But what does that, two things. What does that have to do with being conservative? How is it a conservative principle to say we want people to spend their money in the state of Colorado versus elsewhere, Amazon, or versus the crime thing? Tied into the crime thing. And buddy, I think you're just flat wrong. I don't know of any conservative principle that says conservatives want you to spend your money right here. I've never heard of that.
In 1776, the big problem was colony, that there were 13 colonies that were run by the king. And he had given 13 corporate charters to the 13 colonies, and they had company script. And there was New Jersey money, there was New York money, there was Georgia money, and you couldn't trade from New Jersey to New York. You couldn't send a load of cotton across the border.
And thus car theft.
Well, if all you got to do is read little Ben Franklin about how when everybody is starved for money, then they turn to crime.
Okay, now we're getting down to it. You think that the spike in crime is because people need money?
Gas prices went up. When did the crime spree start?
Years ago. It's been on an upward trend, especially in Denver, for a decade, my friend.
Oh, well, didn't oil and gas start spiking as soon as George Bush invaded Iraq in 2003?
There is very little chance that the number of cars that are stolen in Denver is related to the price of gas. And when I say little chance, what I'm really saying is 0% chance, man. There's just no correlation between that. These are crimes of opportunity. They are not crimes of, I've got to have the money to pay for my gas or food for my kids. That's not it.
Ben Franklin wrote in his autobiography about how when America was being starved of money, the 13 colonies where the king was demanding taxes, that money was sent overseas. People had to pay in gold or silver. And they could only get money back in paper.
If it was only property crimes that were surging in Denver, we could have a conversation about it potentially being related to need, which it is not. How do you explain murder? How do you explain other crimes against persons? How do you explain sex assault? The rapes are because gas is high?
Crime rate goes up when people are starved of money.
These people are not starved of money, my friend. The economy has not been a dumpster fire. Just before Polis took office, we had the red hottest economy out there in America, man.
The Republicans are trying to kill the economy to make Biden look bad, right?
Nope.
Yes,
not at all, friend.
No. They're laughing about it. They're giggling about it. Oh, the economy numbers are terrible. Look at Biden. Hold on. Biden. They're going out of their way to do snipe fest, to diminish America's credit rating, and then they'll be able to power trip all the rest of the way. And so the whole trip is
the state of the economy right now is because the Republicans are trying to stop it. The Republicans who just only recently, within the last month or so, took over control of one house of one branch of government. Those Republicans are trying to destroy the economy.
Listen to any news broadcast for the last number of years. They're sniping at Biden's economy, sniping at Biden's economy. He's the worst. He's the worst. He's incompetent. The American economy right now, we got the lowest unemployment rate in like 70 years.
It's 50, but yeah, I've heard about that. But remember, that in large part is the benefit of having had employment crater during the government shutdown for COVID. So it's
So
not
if
like he's just
inflation-
created a bunch of jobs that were in addition to the ones that the Trump administration had created. We had that cratering economy, tons of unemployment, and then those jobs came back the way they were predicted to. David, I'd love to keep having the conversation with you. I wish it were more on topic, but I think we got to it. You think gas prices are why rapes are up in Denver. I get it. If people need money, they turn and they sexually assault the person next to them. I understand. I disagree. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by our good called Alpine Planning. It's George Brockler on the George Show 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brockler right back with you here on 710 KNUS, going right to the VIP phone line. Joining us from some sort of black site run by the CIA, Gabe from Alpine Planning. Gabe, how are you?
I just got to say, Billy has been crushing the DJ this morning.
He's picked some good music here, and I think it's because we're rocking these hats. I know you aren't on YouTube at the moment because the prison won't let you out of your cell, but while we're talking about the economy, someone tried to blame a lot of this stuff on the crime thing, but where are we today? What's the good news today?
I didn't know you had listeners in San Francisco, so kudos to you, sir.
We do what we can.
We're starting off slightly in the red, but relatively flat. Currently have the Dow down 132, S&P is off 12, and the NASDAQ is off 11. I think this will be the theme for the next few weeks here, is, until we get a little bit more clarity on guidance and inflation from the Fed on what they're going to do. But really, there's just a conundrum of news and stuff going on right now, George. We had inflation come down a little bit lower year over year, but not as big as of a decline. 6.5 last month compared to 6.4 this month. And you did see month over month increase for the first time in a while. So with retail sales going up 3%, more jobs being quote unquote created. I agree with you that a lot of the slack in the economy is just sort of from the COVID hangover, and frankly, a lot of the workforce just not choosing to come back into the workforce. So we have to remember that unemployment is a number based off how many people are actually looking for jobs, not those that have chosen to retire, et cetera. So the crystal ball is foggy right now, George, and so I think it's extra important, especially for clients that are already retired or quickly approaching retirement, to kind of maybe barbell the portfolio, get a little bit of safety. As always, we don't like to time the markets at Alpine Planning Group, but I think it is a time to be a little bit more active than normal. And that's what Brian, Amy, and myself have been doing with a lot of our clients recently.
Listen, do you expect then, because of that, this is going to sound funny, but this is how you just talk about the economy and government budgetary growth, the slowing decrease in the inflation rate, that means that the Fed may come back and hit the brakes a little harder and go 0.5 or 50 basis points on the interest rate increase? And when do they meet again?
I don't think that Fed Chair Powell, in his last statement, he said we are sort of in the deflationary point, right? That was the first time I think he had finally been like, okay, we're starting to see some progress. We still believe that it'll be a quarter point. Obviously, things are subject to change. So next time they meet, I think it is the third week of March is the next time they're meeting, the 21st, I believe. We'll see. I think it'll be a quarter point. Brian, Amy, and I still sort of have the thesis that the terminal rate's going to be somewhere in the 5.5 neighborhood. Right now, we're at 4.5 to 4.75 range. But we'll see what happens. If we kind of just stay stagnant at this 6% number, I would say for more than 3 months, then they're going to have to do something. But obviously, we'll see that with some seasonality. With eggs up 70% year over year, some of the things in the economy are just subject to, hey, their chickens have avian flu and some other things. So we'll
it doesn't help that Colorado says your chickens have to have their own individual hen house with flushing toilets and a television before they can produce eggs that can be sold in King Soopers or Safeway. That doesn't help. But I get it. Their eggs are now in some ways more expensive than certain cuts of meat, which is it's impossible. And I'm an egg lover based not just on the hat. I'm excellent, but this new egg, you got to get this, Abe, for the office. Your folks will love it out there. Amy, Brian, they'll appreciate it. I know Brian's a vegan, but I'm pretty sure you can entice him into eating one of these egg sandwiches off of this awesome egg maker. Alpine Planning Group is a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing, it's a matter of trust, man. It really is. And they're prepared to earn yours every single day. Call them today at 303-843-0918. 0918. Love these guys. Gabe, I hope you get a chance to get up to the slopes.
Drive safe home, sir. Don't want any motor vehicle crime.
Well, someone will just steal the car. So whatever. Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate it.
Be well.
See ya.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
Bridget and Brian are on hold right now. And I want to tell you that I could take you right now, but that's a lie because I have 1 whole minute. That's not fair to you. I could also say to the callers that are calling in right now in the text about the crime and all that, and frankly, David's call from San Francisco, that I will take you right at the top of the hour. Here's the truth. We're going to be joined by Assistant Minority Leader Rose Pugliese for an update on the legislature and some bills that she's pushing. But I promise you after that, you can drop off, you can hang on. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you want to get back in the conversation after Rose Pugliese is on the radio, I promise we'll bring you up. That's just how it works on this show. We love the callers. We live for the callers. That's you, Bridget, Brian, and all the other folks at 303-696-1971. Stick around. We're going to do a little legislative update. There's only 120 days of it in the session. I don't know where we are on the calendar, how many days are left, but it can't end soon enough. We'll get made smarter here by Rose. She's terrific in just a few minutes. Stick around. George Brockler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brockler right back with you here. We're halfway through the halfway show for the week. It's Hump Day, 15th of February. I sure hope you did something sweet for that person you love. I kind of hope you did the whole beau visage thing. That would be awesome to find out after the fact how much they love that whole thing. We are going to continue our conversation about the local policies that impact you. If not right now, they will in the future. We are joined by a Rose by any other name may not be Pugliese. It's the Assistant Minority Leader at the General Assembly, Rose Pugliese. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, George, for having me.
Are you trying to drive up again from Colorado Springs?
Yeah, I feel like every time I talk to you, it's like a traumatic driving day. But yes, I'm still in the car. Roads were very sketchy getting out of Colorado Springs, a little bit better in Denver, but not great. So, yes.
Yeah, how's traffic, by the way? You can be our on-ground, on-scene traffic reporter.
Okay, well, it appears that most people are not going to work today or maybe have late starts. A lot of the schools are closed, so traffic wasn't terrible, but it's super icy out there, so be careful.
Douglas County, which you may be driving through right now, what part of I-25 are you on?
No, I just got off of 25 because I left at 6:30 trying
my
to
sweet goodness.
get here.
Unbelievable.
But yeah.
I was just going to say Douglas County is open for business at regular hours for the responsible I care about education students and families, but they put out a paragraph that said, hey, if you feel uncomfortable sending your kids to school, you can keep them home today and it'll be counted as an excused absence. And I'm like, what in the world? How do you list that on TV? But it sounds like a lot of people. I've had some teachers that I know from Douglas County schools text me and say, I got one class where I've got 1/4 of the kids that are normally here, which is devastating. Just devastating. I don't know where we make up that day, but I'm telling you, my son has 3 tests a day he studied for. And I talked to him after the 6 o'clock hour. He said, if they do not give me these tests, I am going to demand them from the teacher. And I'm like, that's going to blow their mind. No student says, test me. I demand you to test me. They're like, oh, no. If it were me, I'd be like, a delay? Fantastic. And then I'd check out. But that's not why you're here, Rose. You are the Assistant Minority Leader for the General Assembly on that House side. You are like the 300 we have talked about at the hot gates, trying to keep the craziness from getting back into our beloved Colorado. Tell us in other terms, we'll get to your bills too, but tell us what's going on there and give us your sense of progress in good areas or bad areas.
It's been really interesting. Today we're going to focus a lot on supplementals. So basically, when the budget is approved, the state fiscal year starts July 1st and ends June 30th. And then all these departments come in and say, oh, we didn't realize that we were going to need more money and more money and more people and more money. And so we are going through the supplemental process today on the floor, which should be really interesting. Everybody needs more, but it'll be really interesting to see where they get it. Obviously, I like to remind people, as depressing as it is, we are 19, small but mighty 19. And we had some really great conversations about budget yesterday. But there's a lot of additional requests that really should be included in budget requests for the 23-24 budget and not as supplementals. But I think you're going to see the Republicans today really fighting back on not programs. We're not getting into whether these programs should exist or not. We will definitely have those conversations, but whether or not that funding should be allocated now, and that these weren't already things that the departments knew that they were going to need when they put in their request last year.
When you look at the budget, Rose, it's the biggest one in the history of the state of Colorado, isn't it?
It is. It is huge. We do not have a revenue problem. We have an appropriation problem as far as prioritizing the proper role of government and the things we should be funding and the things that we shouldn't be funding. That is the issue.
Well, listen, in an environment where, and this is an aside from what you called in for about the bills, I promise we'll get there, but I've done my own little research. I write a column for something called the Gazette. You may have heard of it, Denver, Colorado Springs, hopefully soon Aurora. Here's what's going on. The Public Defender's Office is reported to have asked for an additional $17.7 million of our taxpayer money. But here's the thing. If you go back just 10 years Their budget has grown by 104% in an environment where our state population has only grown by 12%. They are now within about 130 employees of being as staffed as the entire Colorado State Patrol, and their numbers have exploded too. Their numbers have grown by 67% over that 10-year period of time. It outdistances every other criminal justice agency out there. It is inexplicable to me, save for this thing. I don't know, Rose, if you know where folks can go out and look up individual salaries that are state employees. Like, can someone look up Rose Pugliese pay? I mean, I know the legislature set, but you know what I'm saying? Is there some website where I can know what someone's salary is right now?
I would look at the Joint Budget Committee. That's where all the budgets lie, and it might not be as detailed as what you're looking for, but it would be a good place to start. I can also try to track down some information that I can share with you after the call.
Yeah, and it feels like the JBC needs to start asking questions here, because it's like education. We dump jillions in education, and a ton of it goes to the administrators, more than goes into our schools and our classrooms. Same thing with the public defender's office. I was able to find the number 2 person in the PD's office and a couple chief deputies. They have each received, just between 2017 and 2019, between $20,000 and $40,000 raises. That's insane. That's like Billy money from behind the glass. Nonetheless, I don't want to distract you much. It's just something I found that when you start talking about appropriations and the budget, who do we say no to? I mean, who are we turning down with money? I'm glad you guys are tackling this, but let's get to this thing. You get 5 bills. Do you get more than that because you're the assistant minority leader, or you just get the 5?
So we all get 5 bills, and then any one of us, I'm not special, but any one of us can ask for additional bills as needed. I have done that for a couple of bills that I wanted to join, especially around county issues that they brought forward to me that weren't one of my 5. So any one of us can request additional bills. I'm trying not to get on too many bills because you have to track all of that. I have this rule where I don't co-sponsor a ton of bills unless I'm very, very passionate about it, because it's just too hard to track all the amendments and what it looks like in the end. And I definitely don't want to get caught flat-footed. So, but there are definitely some bills that were priority bills, like the one I wanted to talk to you about today, but kind of all still weaves into the conversation we were just having about supplementals and money and how much does the government need and when is enough enough. And so anyway, the bill that I wanted to talk to you about is repealing the retail delivery fee bill. And I know this is a fun one. I already had the energy office has said, we'd like to talk to you about your bill. And I said, okay. I was like, which bill? We have an issue with it. I was like, which bill is it exactly? And they said repealing the retail delivery fee bill. And I said, are you opposed? And they said, well, of course we're opposed. I said, why? Because you need more money? I was like, of course you're going to be opposed to my bill because it's never going to be enough. And so
who's this organization? Who came to you and said, we hate your bill?
Oh, it's the energy office, the Colorado Energy Office.
Unbelievable.
And you'll see one of our supplementals today that I'm on is to halt the funding for the last quarter of the fiscal year for the energy office, because they're kind of the anti-energy office. So I don't know that they need more money to continue to kill oil and gas in the state, but
we'll they've been doing it.
I'm pretty
by
sure.
the way, according to David from San Francisco, that's what's leading to the spike in rapes. Just saying. I don't believe that. I'm just telling you that's what's out there. If we could just anyway. So this is something that recently passed, didn't it?
So yes, so it was in 2021, and it's interesting. You know, I don't bring statement bills. I don't generally. I can make statements all day long. I don't need a bill to do that because we're bringing laws, and I try to remind lawmakers, legislators, like these are actual laws that we're bringing. But this one I feel incredibly passionate about. When I was campaigning, I knocked doors every weekend, and then during the week I helped some of our competitive House seats and knocked in their communities too. And the number one issue that people brought forward to me was that 27-cent delivery fee. Every time you get Amazon or any other delivery comes to your house, we got accustomed to it during COVID when they said, don't leave your house, get everything delivered. And then they were like, oh, and now we can tax you for it. And it's a fee, which a fee really is a tax, no voter approval. And it is the one
how
thing
come
that
no
people
voter
were really
approval? How come no voter approval for what is an obvious tax?
Because Republicans aren't in charge, because there's no respect for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And the courts haven't been on our side when it comes to fees and the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, right? So, I do think this is like a kitchen table issue. I know a lot of people were like, you should have brought the 10-cent bag fee, like repeal that too. But like I was saying, we don't have a revenue issue. My fiscal note came back and it was like negative $80 million or something. They had a range that they couldn't quite confirm. And I was like, well, negative $80 million means that's more money in our household budget to spend for our children and our families and on gas, which, we all know the gas tax is going to increase. It's just how much is
the election's over, Rose. There's no reason to keep it low because the election's over. We can now raise it to what it was supposed to be.
That's right. And there's going to be a lot more coming that people are not aware of. And so this one, I was surprised. There is a kill committee. And when I say that, people are surprised. But there is a committee where good bills go to die. And they did not assign it to the kill committee, which I was very surprised about. They assigned it to local government and transportation, which is where it belongs.
Huh.
And I think you'll see a lot of people testifying. I'm really trying to get more engagement on this issue so that people will stand up and say, hey, when is enough enough? But it also opens up the door for us to talk about affordability and how Colorado is not affordable and that we are continuing to make it less and less affordable and that government needs to stop. It just needs to stop. And so I'm excited to have those conversations. They are conversations that we had this whole last year. And I think bringing it to the legislature is really important.
Do you have any real hopes, despite lack of the kill committee assignment? How many co-sponsors and all that stuff do you have? And any Dems willing to say, you know what? I do care about people. And in this economic time, I'm not looking to crush them with more fees. Anybody say that?
No. I have a Republican, my good friend Perry Will, state senator on the Senate side, but I'm pretty sure it will face a quick and painful death in local government and transportation. Although you never know, I could be pleasantly surprised. Maybe the legislature will actually listen and say enough's enough. You can always hold out faith, right?
Well, listen, I'm glad that we're starting the conversation now and keeping it moving forward, if only because it reminds people that the legislature has heaped fee upon fee on them without ever getting their permission to do so. Who gets these fees when they're collected? Does it go into the general fund or does it go to something specific?
I think it's going, a lot of it's going to be in general fund. Different departments already have their hands in that pot. This is supposed to be, and this is the argument I never understand. I'm a huge Amazon shopper in full disclosure. So, they talk about impact on roads and, all of these drivers that are delivering your packages, that they're putting all these impacts on our roads. And I agree, but I believe if I have to shop at 6 different stores to get all of the things that I get in one place, I am putting more wear and tear on our roads than that one truck. So I think the argument is kind of reversed, but everybody's got their hand in the pot, including the energy office. So I think it's going to be hard to roll back unless there's some real political will to address the issue of affordability in Colorado. And we'll see if the governor has that will.
Normally, when there's any sort of fiscal note, that would be the death of a bill. Is that, or make it really hard? Is that not the case this year because of the growth in the budget, that there's just so many people who are like, and I want to do this, and I want to spend some of this, and I'd like some of that, and I'd take those naked lady teas and that cup of soup?
Yes. we there, everybody's hands in the pot. They don't want to roll any of these fees back. And so I don't see the political will to say, you know what, enough's enough. Let's really talk about what's affecting taxpayers.
Rose, what else is coming up here? Every time I talk to you, I want to hold out hope. I'm glad you are out there and the rest of your Spartan clan are out there trying to advance things forward. Are there other shoots of grass or green that we can look to and say, this is promising, or this wasn't as bad as it could have been? I think we lost you. Is Rose still on the line? Are you still?
You stumped me a little bit. I do think I want to say, here's where I think we really need to engage. I think showing up is still very important because I think having that record, I talked to one of my mom's groups the other day. I did a roundtable on a Saturday to talk about medical freedom and parental rights and what's going through the legislature and what we need to be aware of. And, they were like, why bother show up? And I said, it is so important that we have a record. It is so important that we do show up. It is so important that we clog their emails with emails saying this is not what Coloradans want. Because when we stay silent, they believe they have a bigger mandate than they really do. So what I'm going to say is the grass is green when it comes to the grassroots efforts we're making. And we need to continue to be a loud and strong voice at the Capitol. And we need to support our legislators who all are working really hard, especially on the Republican side, to make sure that people's concerns are brought forward, that we're having the conversations that we need to have. They're hard conversations, but good conversations. And so I do think there is hope in the grassroots.
One quick question, because I know listeners here at 710 will want to know this, but this bill to eliminate assault weapons or assault rifles or any version of gun that can produce a bullet out of one end of it, what's the status of that? And does it seem like that, once it's launched, is destined for success given the makeup of the legislature, or is there something y'all can do?
I think there's going to be a multitude of gun bills, anti-Second Amendment bills that are going to be coming forward. I don't think it's going to be just one. And I think they're going to couch it as protection from gun violence. We saw one go through that our Republicans fought really hard against, that would give counties more authority to prohibit the discharge of firearms on private property. Private property right violations, Second Amendment right violations, all sorts of violations. And I was a former county commissioner. I believe in local control. This goes too far in impeding private property rights. So now it's going to be where you can own guns, you just can't shoot them. So I think that we're going to see a lot of that coming. I think we are getting ready for that fight, but we are always going to advocate and protect the Second Amendment as far as your House Republican caucus.
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried because whatever gets generated, no matter how much we hem and haw, the numbers just aren't in our favor to stop realistically anything. We just can't get it done. Last question, any word on what things may be sent to the ballot by the legislature?
We've heard there's going to be a ballot question on education, which is a whole other conversation that you and I can have again. But we do hear about that. I'm hoping that there's some people on our side also working on some ballot questions to roll back and bring some of these issues to the people, like our retail delivery fee, like a lot of the fees that we're going to see, the increase in gas, the gas tax that didn't go to the vote of the people. I'm hoping to see some more of that coming forward. I don't know that doing it through the legislative process will be as fruitful as our grassroots efforts have been.
Well, listen, we're going to have you back on. I love hearing from legislators. I want to just tease you with this. Next week, the folks here at 710, me included, will be down in a place called El Paso. It turns out not that county, the one in Texas. We're going to El Paso, Texas to talk about border stuff, fentanyl, human trafficking, crime, all the good things that flow from illegal immigration and an unprotected border. I would love to have a conversation with you next week, or anyone else that you think is great to have this conversation with at the General Assembly, about where we're seeing impacts from illegal immigration down there up here. Is that possible?
Absolutely. On the fentanyl issue, our minority leader, Mike Lynch, is incredibly strong on that issue. And so we'll try to get you guys connected.
Yeah, thank you.
He's done a ton of research. have tried to work on that issue very strongly. So, I think that it's a great issue. Definitely something we need to be talking about.
Rose Pugliese, Assistant Minority Leader, former county commissioner, and all-round superstar on all things conservative in the state of Colorado. Thanks for taking time out of your crazy drive to talk with us.
Thanks, George. Thank you to all your listeners.
We'll chat with you soon. Thanks for Rose Pugliese. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. And when we come back, Brian, Mark, I think there was someone else we had on, just dropped off. You call back. That line is open for the moment, 303-696-1971. I want to remind you, though, about something to, if you're driving around right now, here's what happens when the temperature changes and the weather changes. I'm starting to feel it now, too, and it's pissing me off. When it gets cold, or if there's going to be I start to feel it in my joints. Now, it hasn't gotten to the point yet where I want to take action, but you might be different. You might be like, oh, there's a storm a-coming. I can tell because if you're experiencing pain, chronic pain in your knees, your ankles, your hips, your elbows, shoulders, all those major joints in your body, and you have gone to see, first off, if you haven't seen the doctor, what the heck, man? You don't have to live with pain. But you go see the doctor. My guess is they say you need an orthopedic surgeon who will take a look and say, hey, we can x-ray you. We can do all this stuff. And then we can cut you apart and re-Lego you together, and you'll be right as rain, many, many weeks and months of rehab down the road. That may be the only answer, but I don't think so. I think you have a second opinion here that you can get. And why not call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetix? It doesn't cost you anything to call them. Ask them all the questions about, listen, why would I go with you instead of the cutter? Why would I go with you instead of the guy that's going to open me up and expose me to bacteria and infection and all those other things? And they're going to tell you, because we don't do any of that. We don't cure you with metal that cuts open your body. We cure you with you. It's regenerative medicine. And the way that they go about this thing leaves you with no downtime. The rehabilitation is just about zero. You have the opportunity to get a pain-free life without having to go under the knife. Ooh. Pain-free life with no knife. You're welcome, QC Kinetix. If you're listening, I just coined your phrase. That's the new t-shirt. Pain-free life without the knife. Boom. Give them a call, 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. Costs you nothing. You just get information. And then with that information, you get to make a smart decision for you. And my guess is you're going to give QC Kinetix a try. When we come back, Brian, Mark, the other folks calling in, the texts that have been coming in as well. It's George Brockler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brockler back with you here, 710 Canyon. With my thanks to Rose Pugliese, the assistant minority leader out there on an island under the gold dome. She'll be back. We're going to get others too. I love me some Matt Soper and other folks out there to have the conversation. I appreciate the fentanyl reference as well. I love people that help me out and help me get smarter. Mark from Denver, are you that person? You're on 710 KNUS. What do you think? Yeah, help me.
Oh, I guess I wanted to tell you there was a website out there, openthebooks.com,
Okay.
and it's got everybody's pay in it.
But here's the limitation, because you're right. I found that one. That's a good one. Openthebooks.com. But for public defender pay and frankly any salaries from the state, it stops at 2019. Like, I can't find any public defender pay past 2019. I can just tell you that between $27,000 and $39,000 raise and two other chief deputies who really supervise almost nobody, they each got about $17,000 to $20,000 raises. I mean, I know that from then, but I don't know what's happened over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I guess the last time I looked at it, I looked at it for as long as it was free, which lasted about 20 minutes, and then you had to start paying for it.
Well, it was free when I looked at it, but maybe that's the limitation. Maybe it didn't have a box that said, if you want current information, please press here. It didn't say that. So maybe it's open back up, but it's a great reference, by the way. Openthebooks.com is a great place to go. It just, for me and this particular column, was just a little limited. Any other thoughts, by the way, on this whole crime thing that's taken place out of Denver?
In the way.
Uh-oh, Mark. Oh my gosh, Mark. Sure hope I felt like the question was an easy one. Perhaps Mark had trouble on the road. Mark, if you're listening, man, call back in. I wanted to ask you about the crime. 303-696-1971. Mark's line is open. Let's go to Brian. Brian, you're on 710. How are you? And it's, by the way, it's Brian from Arvada. I've got to say that now because I've been so forgetful in doing that. They type it on the YouTube thing. I'm sorry. On YouTube, they type it up where it says Brian from Denver or Arvada, and then we show a picture of you that you didn't know we have. No, I'm kidding. We don't have any pictures of you, man. What's going on?
Hey, I loved your crime segment.
Thanks.
I personally know 3 people who've had their car stolen.
Oh my Lord, man.
And somebody at work, he has car stolen and another attempt. They didn't go through with it, but they trashed the whole thing and they couldn't get it started. But anyway, that didn't surprise me, those statistics, because it's like you said, it doesn't stay in Denver. It's bleeding out to the suburbs. I'm in Arvada, Jeffco. It bleeds out here. We've had break-ins in our cul-de-sac. Nothing stolen, but break-ins. And so, but again, I come to the point where we all knew this was going on for the past couple of years. And yet Colorado voted to put the same people in charge that have the same policies that got us to this point.
So why is that, Brian? Because in my mind, I thought that the midterm elections would be a reflection of and a response to exactly what you've described. And yet Colorado voters, at least the majority of them, were like, no, it's all right. Why is that?
Because they're idiots. That's the only thing I can think of. If you're voting for policies that are killing teenagers and adults with fentanyl, if you're voting for policies that are getting cars stolen, if you're voting for policies that make Denver an inhabitable place, and you're an idiot. I don't know what else to tell you except that. And that's, I'm trying to be nice to my friends on the left, but at this point, you're an idiot if you're voting for these policies, because the statistics, like you quoted, the statistics are there. I'm not making this up. So that's one thing. The second thing is you had this lady from the legislature on.
Yeah, Rose Pugliese. Yeah.
Yeah, Rose. Good for her for standing up for right. But again, the Dems are going to do whatever they want, George. We know that.
She knows it too.
Run roughshod.
She knows it too. It's like hope springs eternal, and then she runs into withering gunfire. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
Well, which is like my second point would just be, that's why we need new leadership in the GOP, because we're never going to change our capital back to even purple if we don't get new leadership in the GOP. And the only person that I heard is Casper talking with acronyms about changing the message, doing this, doing that. I like Ottman. He was in my district. He lost. I respect his service. but he's the same old guard. I don't hear him saying any of the things Casper's saying about outreach, changing the message, going to the youth. So if we don't get Casper in there, George, what's the definition of insanity? We're going to get the same result. And I hope you can back Casper, and I hope your friends can back Casper, because he's the only one talking about real change in the GOP and bridging two gaps that are so far apart. Anything else is just going to get us exactly in the same place we are next year and the next year and the next
Brian,
year.
I'm still unclear as to whether or not I even get a vote. I don't know if you remember, I talked to KBB a couple days ago, and she was like, you're on this. It's the different fourth CD. And I'm like, I don't understand whether I get a vote or not. If I do, I'm going to be there. If
Well,
I
you don't have
don't,
to vote, George, to support him. You've got a big megaphone. You don't need a vote to support him. And like I said, if that GOP elects the same kind of person with a different name, we're going to get the same result. And nobody's out there talking like
wait,
Casper.
there's
You
how
have
many
to
are up there
admit
now?
that.
Is it 3? Is it 3 of them?
And yeah, and neither one of them are talking the way Casper is.
Now, one of them is Aaron Wood. If it's Woods, forgive me, Aaron Wood. And he was one of the guys that led that rally across from the GOP headquarters, where they were extremely upset and said a whole lot of things that were just ridiculous in terms of talking about other Republicans out there, not very helpful or constructive. He doesn't.
I'm not backing him.
He doesn't
No.
support that. And then
I don't support that. No.
I like Casper a lot. I'm also a big veteran guy, though. And so Eric, he put on the uniform. He served overseas. That stuff matters to me because it tells me more about what's going on in his chest than in his head. I just kind of, I haven't made a decision yet, but I'd love to have all of them on, Aaron included. I just would love to hear the conversation.
I want them all on, but every time Casper's on, I get inspired. And I think that's what we need, is that kind of inspiration. But the last thing I want to say, George, let's do some research about these trains being derailed, and let's talk about it. Because
the Ohio thing you're talking about out of Palestine.
Ohio, Houston, there's been others. Nobody's talking about it. CBS News led with nothing. They led with racism and guns again, and not one thing about these derailments. And it's scary. It's not coincidental. And I think we should talk about it really, and not.
You know what? I should probably try to find a guest who can bring us up to speed on that. The part that was scary to me is not just that it happened, but that within a very short period of time, despite these extremely toxic, hazardous chemicals, carcinogens being dumped into the ground and the water. I mean, they're talking like 3,500 fish killed over a multi-mile spread of this river. The government came in and said, "Nope, everybody's safe to go back home." And I'm like, "What? Already?"
Livestock is dying 11 miles downwind from this
Wow.
kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, it doesn't seem like a coincidence when multiple incidents are happening in a short period of time, and you've got nobody out there talking about it. Look at the video of a reporter getting arrested trying to report on that. It's scary. Getting dragged out, arrested over just trying to report on these
I'm glad you brought up, Brian. I'll tell you, as we go through the issues of the day and discuss, we really do like to, and I think you probably pick up on this, we really do like to stay local. And when we go national, I want it to be an issue that we can feel here. So when we talk presidential election, Congress, all that stuff we can feel here. This one, maybe it crosses over the line into that category because we have a ton of trains here as well. And maybe this is the kind of thing that could happen here. I'm just telling you how the sausage gets made. I want to take another look at it, but I'd like to get somebody on air here who is an expert who can make us smarter about this.
Yeah, we're a huge hub for trains. So just like we are for the airport. So connecting, taking off different places. So yeah, it's just something I've been looking at and concerned about. But again, I'm more concerned about the GOP in Colorado, George. So
I hear you, man. I'll have to have those other two on. Hey, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Brian's line is open, 303-696-1971. We're going to cut away for a bit of a break here. I do want to tell you, and I think I confirm for you, that at the end of March, Big Daddy's going to leave this radio studio, go home, hopefully engage in some meaningful personal hygiene, and then head out to our friends at Twin Aspen Dental Center, right down there. Easy to get to, Parker Road and Stroh, right by Lehman Academy. These are the good local dentist folks that you want to go see to get fixed up. Now, there are big box stores out there, the big national chains. I'm not denigrating them at all, but people come and they go, and it's a one-size-fits-all. That's not how they do it at Twin Aspen Dental Center. One of the great things about Twin Aspen Dental Center is because they view themselves as an extension of the community, part of the community, is that they take steps to try to put you in a position to get the benefit of these great dental services Doctors Richter and Snyder provide, even if you don't have the kind of insurance that would normally do it. So they have this reduced fee plan, and you got to call them to talk to them about it. It's pretty awesome. And it provides you over the course of the year two routine cleanings, 2 routine exams. That's what you need every year. All necessary x-rays, and that's usually once a year. 1 emergency exam that I hope you never have to use, and the fluoride application for the kids under 18. That's an incredible offer, but you also get 25% off of all dental services. I haven't had to use them for that last part, but I've done just about everything else there. I've even at one point, although I didn't use them for this, I had my front tooth, I don't know what that one's called, right there in the middle, the one you see, the Alfred E. Newman missing one with the space there. I had mine broken by my sister with a sucker. Now, she was 40 when she did it. And no, I'm kidding. She was a kid. She was like 5 or 6, and that's its own story. But I've had to have the emergency. Having a doctor you can trust, a dentist you can trust, is such a big, big deal. So here's the 2 ways to get to them. You can go online, twinaspendentalcenter.com. I'll say it again, twinaspendentalcenter.com. Or you can give them a call at 303-841-76. I'm sorry, 7466. I'm going to say it 2 more times. 303-841-7466. 303-841-7466. When you call up, say, hey, I heard George talk about you. He raves about you. He says you're his dentist. Is that true? And then make an appointment, man, and you'll love it. And then give us a call and tell us how well it goes. Listen, when we come back, we're going to get back to the text. We're going to get back to the topics of the day. Your phone calls at 303-696-1971. It's George Brockler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. George Brockler with you here, 710 KNUS, final segment of this particular hour. If you'll recall, yesterday while we were on the air, right up here on the TV in front of me, was Governor Jared Polis on Fox News. Not a lot of good explanations for that other than I imagine the dude thinks he wants to be president. Billy was able to pull a little bit of sound from that interview. Now, what's interesting is the tape across the bottom, the little ticker down there said Colorado governor or something like that Colorado moves towards zero income tax. And so I was super excited, like, oh my gosh, maybe he's finally come out and said it in like a formal, meaningful way instead of just saying, hey, it wouldn't bug me if and all that other stuff. Billy, you got the question and the answer there too. Listen to this answer and tell me what you hear. I don't hear anything.
We've had two reductions that have been voter approved since I've been governor. We reduced the income tax from 4.63 to 4.4%, two different reductions. We're doing our best to use the surplus funds that we have to try to get the legislature to do another reduction along with other refund mechanisms. I think we shouldn't penalize success. We should incentivize success. So we should find things that are what we call in economics negative externalities, things that we don't like as a society that should have effectively taxes or fees, not something like income, which we want everybody to make income. It's a great thing for everybody.
You might have.
Oh, income is a great thing for everybody. That kind of truism is the thing that'll put you right there in the White House. What's interesting is we've reduced taxes makes it sound like he did it or the legislature did it. Remember that these tax reductions were an end run around him and the General Assembly. Michael Fields had more to do with Coloradans cutting their taxes than the governor or the General Assembly or both of them added together. It was through that petition process, which if you ask the libs in charge of the General Assembly, in their heart of hearts, they would tell you they hate the idea that we can petition on things onto the ballot that don't have to run through them. They hate that. It's condescending, it's elitist, but they don't like it, especially things like this. And remember when we had Fields on the other day, and of course he is the president of Advanced Colorado Institute, all things policy all the time, and has that swanky podcast there on all the platforms for Advanced Colorado Rundown. Michael was telling us that they're freaked out. The legislature's freaked out that they're going to take another run at lowering the tax rate. Now, remember, they can't do it this year. It can only take place in those even numbered years. I think 2024 is the next opportunity for it. And I think it's coming. These folks, by the way, are so anti-ballot initiative thing. Remember what they did when Fields ran that truth in sentencing bill or a petition that would have put on the ballot for you and I to vote for, mandating 85% of your prison term, which still seems like a discount, right? 85% of your prison term if you commit a violent crime. And who came in to kill that? Jenna Griswold and Phil Weiser. And they did it through the title board. They subbed out the two people that normally show up there, and they sent their hatchet men and women in to cut the bill down before it could be fixed with no time left on the clock to get it done. That's what they think of there. So please don't fall victim. I know you won't, to anything the governor talks about like we did. We cut. You did nothing. You did nothing. Those taxes were cut without you. They were cut by you and me, listener, because of guys like Michael Fields and the good folks at Advanced Colorado. Now, listen, I don't want to cut away to end this particular hour until I get a chance to tell you about another superstar. No, it's not Michael Fields, and he is a superstar, even if he's 15 years old or whatever it is. Still, I think the guy has 7 or 8 kids too. Very prolific. No, I want to talk to you about a different superstar, a guy named Dan Caplis. I had a friend the other day mention the fact that they're like, listen, I know someone that was hurt in a motor vehicle accident. I heard you talk about it before. They went with one of these other firms that'll remain nameless. And they were satisfied at the pace and the speed with which it was. But after it was over, they felt like, man, I think we left something on the table. I mean, my injuries are worse than I think we thought that they were. I don't know why we had to push to get this done so quickly. You don't run into that problem with our friend Dan Caplis or his partner, Babar Wahid. They're not interested in rushing to get it done. They're interested in getting it done the right way with the most justice for you. This guy's a seasoned trial attorney. Now, a lot of these folks that run these big firms with their names and stuff on buses and on trains and all this other stuff, man, they talk a good game. But if you call them Ask them, when's the last time you did a trial? I think for Dan, it was within the last month. Ask them, when's the last time you did a trial? How many trials have you done in the last 10 or 20 years? They'll have a couple. Dan, I don't even think he can keep track of anymore because there's just so many of them. And they result in things like 5 consecutive multi-million-dollar verdicts for his clients. Biggest outcome against a trucking company in the history of the state of Colorado. Guy's a winner and a fighter. And the other side, that's the insurance companies, they know it. And so a guy who doesn't have to go to trial because the other side knows and they make the right offers, they still end up trying to test him from time to time. And more often than not, man, these guys come back thinking we should have done the other thing. We should have settled. Give this guy a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check he and Bob are out at Dan Caplis Law. Caplis is with a C.com, dancaplis.law.com. Now, listen, that gives us just about 1 minute. I'm going to change it up here. We've been talking local politics. We've been talking crime. You know that those are sweet spots for us here at the George Show. We love doing that. But I want to talk to you about a life issue coming up here at the top of the hour. And it's a question I'm going to ask about your viewing habits and then some of the interesting information that's showing up here online. This is even on Drudge. That's how crazy this thing is. They're even talking about it on Drudge. And this is something that affects every single one of you. If you are out there, by the way, and you tell me I don't watch any form of video, I don't believe you, but start here. Go to our YouTube channel and look for The George Show or 710 KNUS and subscribe so we can have conversations. I've failed to read these tube texts, Billy. I got to do that over the break. Hey, stick around. Last hour of the Hump Day Show with Snow on the Ground. George Brockler at 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
are the Sultans of Talk right here on 710 KNUS. George Brockler with you for the final hour. We get replaced by Charlie Kirk at 10. More on that in a moment. I'm going to divert from something I was going to do, but then we go with Prager at 11, Gorka at 1, and then we slide right back into the sweet spot here with Live and Local at 3 o'clock with Deb, and then on with Stefan Tubbs. Stefan, who we'd been calling Steven for a couple of weeks because the corporate head honchos had at Salem. I mean, they're the ones that are driving the ship. They say jump, you say how high, Steven, that kind of thing. But he wants to be Stefan again, so we've gone back there. And I know that Stefan has tried to encourage his listeners to begin to refer to me as Jorge and to text in Jorge, and very successfully both of them have. So thank you. Congratulations, Stephen, on that right there. Listen, a couple things. I talked at that last segment about Michael Fields doing awesome work on those initiatives, and that's all true. I left out another heavy hitter with those, and that's a guy named John Caldera. You may have heard of him. He fills in for me. He is the head of the Independence Institute. They also did tremendous work on those tax cuts. I think another one's coming. I just think it freaks out the left. Guys like Scott Wasserman from the Bell Policy Center, really decent guy, nice guy, but he has never seen a tax he did not like. He firmly believes we are an undertaxed people. It's just in his nature, and he is Sinestro to Michael Fields' Green Lantern. I've used that analogy before, but that's true. Can we get back just a bit? I want to talk to you about this whole thing on Drudge that we're talking about, the changing nature of television streaming, because I do think it matters. But I want to take a little diversion here, because what I love about not just our station here at 710, but about the Salem family is we allow folks to get on here and espouse whatever views that they want, even if they disagree with other folks or they don't see things quite eye to eye. And so I'm driving around, and as I do every day, I leave here and I pop on Charlie. Like you guys probably leave him on as well. And Charlie's infinitely smarter and younger than I am, and that makes me really not like him at all. I'm kidding. He does a fantastic job, and he's super, super popular. But his entire show yesterday was about the impending bloodbath, and he used that term numerous times, about what was going to happen in Ukraine with the Russian invasion of Ukraine if we simply didn't inject ourselves into it in a way that said we want to negotiate a peace. And as I'm hearing him talk about it, I remember thinking he made it seem like it was some sort of moral imperative or, loss of human life that compelled us to act. And I thought, wait, where is that for Rwanda? Right? Where is that in the Congo, the DRC out there? I don't understand why all of a sudden now we're interested in preventing a bloodbath between two willing participants to a fight, right? Like Ukraine could have surrendered a long time ago. It turns out they like their country and want to maintain the integrity of their borders. Who can blame them? Russia certainly wants to fight. I mean, they've lost north of 100,000 or more, maybe more than that, soldiers, and they're willing to throw another 300 at this pre-muddy season offensive that they're going to launch. I just didn't buy it, man. Like, I don't think Charlie cares about that. And it's not to say that he's hard-hearted. I'm just like, that can't be the motivation, because otherwise we'd hear about things like Africa all the time, and we don't. Even some of the things that have taken place in Southeast Asia historically, we don't hear stuff like that. But the other part was this. It was this idea that, the U.S. must inject itself and must demand that we're going to broker a peace. It sounds like we do that, and we use the leverage of, hey, by the way, we're leading a coalition of Western countries, the ones that surround you and don't like Russia and their neighborhoods either, to provide you with arms and material and monies and all that other stuff. And somehow that gives us the leverage to do it. But who are we to negotiate a peace between an invading country of any size and the country who is a victim of that invasion? I just don't get it. Like, we're somehow, and it got to the point in the show, if you listen to this, and you should go back, I listen to Charlie all the time, go back and listen to the podcast. One of the things he said is, we need to negotiate a peace where Russia gets the eastern part of Ukraine. And I thought, what part of America would we cede away? What would we have ceded away at any point in our history under the same conditions? Would this have been the same voice that says, hey, let's give back Texas to Mexico? We don't need New Mexico, Texas, Southern California. That's really Mexico stuff anyway. There's so many people there of Spanish descent and Latino. We got to give it. Would you say that? Wouldn't we fight to the death? Although after that Army recruiting story yesterday, less of us would. Wouldn't you fight to the death to defend the integrity of our country? And let's not pretend that, well, Eastern Ukraine is really, there are a lot of Russian speakers. They lean Russian. Well, we've had Polina on multiple times, who is a Russian speaker, who is from that portion of the country, and her families too. They have no interest in being Russians. But this is more to the point. Didn't we go through this here in America? I think it was like, I'm just spitballing here, 1861, when South Carolina led the way to secede from the Union because they had some other cultural differences, mostly the slavery stuff. And we fought to maintain the integrity of our country. So if it's okay for us to do it, if it's the right thing for us to do it, how in the world can we tell Ukraine, hey, I appreciate you guys have sent a lot of your young men and women to the grave in defense of your territory, but it's at the point now where we want to say Russia gets its way. Is that who we are? We jump into that fight, and rather than fight for the victim and rather stand up for the country that's opposing someone who's...
Question from back of the class.
Yeah,
raising my hand.
Billy, I see you must have to go to the bathroom.
I got a question. I want the hall pass, but more importantly, I want to have someone help me understand or explain to me why the United States should be involved or gets to decide how much land Ukraine gets to keep. I want to know why we get to make that decision. Because again, and with all respect to Charlie, when he's talking about it, he's saying the U.S. needs to negotiate with Russia. Well, where's the Ukrainians? It's their freaking country.
I think they'd be brought to the table to hear what's going to happen.
I know, but that's the idea is how come they are not an active participant? This is the part that annoys me the most when I hear people say that the U.S. needs to get involved now and negotiate a peace with Russia. I never hear them say needs to represent Ukraine or work with them at the table to get Russia out of their country. That's never the motivation. It's always colonial. It's always the idea that we, because of our position on the planet, get to decide where we draw the lines on the map. That hasn't worked out real well for us in the past. I don't understand why we continue to have the hubris to believe that we are the ones that get to make that decision today. We would be incredibly, as you pointed out, Joe, incredibly upset.
Joe's good.
Yeah, thank you. That's how frustrated I get because of this.
Try saying Beauvisage Spa.
Yes,
that's a killer.
Over and over. The problem I have is that we would be incensed if another country stepped in and said, we are going to tell you now
absolutely.
how to redraw your territorial lines. We would go, hey, hang on a sec, hold that thought, let me go get my gun. That's what we would do.
We would.
Why do we think that we are allowed the purview to decide the territorial boundaries in Ukraine? Can someone please call me and tell me why that's happening?
I don't know. Just a quick aside here. One of our tube texters said that was hilarious yesterday. If you missed it, Beauvisage Spa ended up becoming a tongue twister of epic proportions. So, of course, I spent hours yesterday practicing in the car as I drove and all that other stuff. I don't understand it either. I do think I understand how we have the leverage to do it because we're providing them with the armor and all these other things. And we are in part leaders of this Western European coalition to help defend Ukraine's borders. But I don't get it, man. And this constant reference to there's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be a bloodbath. I hope that's not true. I don't want that to be true. But these are each willing participants to this fight. Even the invaders certainly are willing participants, and the Ukrainians, because they could just cry uncle. They could say, please don't hurt us, and we'll give you whatever you want and save all those lives. But they have chosen to stand up and fight, and we've chosen to help them do it. I do not understand this. We have to get involved. We have to negotiate away some other country's sovereignty, a sovereignty, by the way, and whose borders we promised years ago, along with Russia, to defend and to protect. Not like NATO allies, but like we said, yeah, if you give up your nuke weapons, Ukraine, when Russia fell apart, when the Soviet Union fell apart, it's okay. We'll protect you. We'll make sure you keep your country and its integrity. Turns out that's not really true if we decide to come in and say, hey, guys, you put up a hell of a fight. It was really something. But we're going to go ahead and call the fight in the 10th round. You don't need those other 3 rounds. We can see how this is going to end. We just want to end it now. I just don't get it. 303-696-1971. Gary, you're Gary from Denver. You're on 710. What do you think?
Oh, hi, George.
Hey, man.
I can answer Billy's questions.
Oh, yeah.
The Charlie Kirk and that the guy with the funny accent that's after him.
Tattoo? After him? I don't think Prager has an accent at all.
No, I mean after Prager. What's
you're talking about our buddy Gorka.
Yeah, Gorka, and at least two local talk show hosts on this radio station. They don't think logically. They think let's paint whatever we're talking about so that it looks poorly on the Biden administration. And that's their starting point. And their objective is to do that. They may not even believe what they're saying. And secondly, to sell books. They want to cash in on
how do you sell books off of this?
Because the Trumpsters will buy books based on anything that's anti-Biden and something that Trump would view favorably.
I think the folks that are in different camps on the Ukraine thing, I think it transcends Trump. Now, I've heard DJT say, hey, listen, if I was in the White House, this wouldn't have happened. I think that's open to debate. I don't know. But I do think it might have given them some pause. But remember, he's got an affinity for these strong autocratic type rulers, and Putin was one of them. But I also think it's true that Trump didn't pull that catastrophe in the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And maybe Putin would have thought, man, these guys might do something here. Maybe we do something else. And I just don't know the answer. It's speculative. But you don't have to be pro-Trump to look at this and say, we need to resist Russian expansion. Everywhere it is, we need to resist it because they are mischief makers wherever they are. What the hell are they doing in Syria? You know
right. I mean? And maybe they're, I disagree with you. I think it's a lot of Trump supporters are that way. But again, it's a viewpoint that would enable them to criticize what Biden is doing or not doing. And that's the bottom line for these people.
Here's a texter, Gary. I do not support Ukraine funding until full accounting is made. Now our expensive artillery is being sent there. Will this end like Afghanistan? Well, one thing, I do want to see a full accounting as well. I don't know how we're spending the money and all that other stuff. I don't know if it's something that you give up at this stage in the proceedings or not. But my hope is Congress is exercising its oversight authority to do that. The expensive artillery is being sent there. Yeah, I guess some tanks and stuff too from the Western allies. Will this end like Afghanistan? I sure hope not. I mean, that's what Russia's counting on, right? They are hoping that we just lose interest, lose faith in the Ukrainians, that the Western European allies do as well, and we all just kind of crumble and do, I think, what Charlie's suggesting, which is, and force them to cave in and give up a part of their country. I don't see it, Gary. I don't get how we're on opposing sides of this, and not you and I mean, me and some of these conservatives who I respect quite a bit. I don't get how it became conservative to say, let's give stuff to the Russians.
Yeah, I don't either. It just makes no sense. I mean, this is our objective in this fight is to adhere to the rights of independent countries to protect their borders. And we just can't let it get on that slippery slope of allowing Russia to do this.
I'm afraid too that, and I'm not questioning his sincerity, but for those folks that are like, well, what about all the loss of human life? I'm like, where were you for Rwanda? You know what I mean? Where were you for any of the mass tragedies that have taken place in Africa? Where was that call for action there? This seems to be different, and I don't understand what's motivating it. I don't think it's enough for Charlie Kirk to say, I think we ought to negotiate a peace to just have another finger to put in Biden's eye. It's got to be something more than that. What would be the other reasons, Gary?
I can't think of one, and that's the reason why that's why I believe that is the reason. It's to put a finger in Biden's eye.
I mean, remember when Iraq moved through its borders back in 1991 for Desert Storm 1? We didn't sit back and go, well, you know what? That's a Middle Eastern conflict. They should settle this. We didn't do that at all. We ginned up the military. We sent them over there, and then we kicked them out, right? I mean, we had the ambassador to Bahrain here, Sam Zakhem, a great man. He's a local guy, right? He was a local legislator here. He was part and parcel of that effort to expel Iraq from kick that invading force back down the road. that mattered. I don't know why this is different.
Yeah, I don't either, George. You obviously know a lot more about this than I do, but I agree with what you're saying. So appreciate the topic.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. Gary's line is open, 303-696-1971. Tony from Littleton, you are on the line along with whoever else is calling in right now. And remember, Gary's line is open, and I promise I will get to you. I just don't want to put either of us in a situation where we can't have a longer conversation. So just stick around through this break. The only thing I got to do before we get there and bring Tony from Denver and everybody else back up, and there's some text coming in too, and you can hit us on the tube text as well, is to let you know about our friend Gay Ribble and the Reynolds and Power Home team. Now, yeah, that's a little bit of a name change, but their mission is the same and their subject matter expertise is the same. Have you looked out there to see housing prices? I still get emails of a former executive assistant of mine is now a realtor making a lot more money. And she put me on some list where I get these generated emails. I see the prices. And folks, there was a time where you could see all of these houses listed that say price reduced, price reduced, price reduced. Those have kind of tapered off. I mean, Denver is still a very competitive and largely expensive place to buy a house. That means selling the house may be awesome, buying may be trickier. And if you need to do one or both of those things, you want someone in your corner that can get it done. And when these guys on average tell you that they're earning their sellers $30,000 more per house than the others, how do you say no to that? Who couldn't use an extra $30K? When they tell you that they sell them faster than the 43-day average that is out there for other realtors in the Denver metro area, who doesn't want to sell their house faster and for more money? And when they tell you they have these special programs like the Sold in 5 program, how do we not jump all over that? And the other stuff is, this doesn't even cost you any money. They just want to help you be smarter and feel comfortable with your decisions. They have empowerhomefreeworkshops.com, empowerhomefreeworkshops.com. Do me a favor, pick up the phone and call these folks, 833-301-SOLD. It costs you nothing to do it, just time. My guess is if you're in a position to sell and buy or one or the other, you talk to these folks and you're going to come away going, George is right, man. This is the real deal. These folks are going to fight for me, get me the best price on both ends of the deal, and I'm going to leave happy, less stressful, and more money in my pocket. 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. When we come back, Tony and the other folks out there, it's George Brockler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brockler right back with you here, 710 KNUS, true to my word. I honor the callers. You could be one of them if you just dial these 10 little numbers, 303-696-1971. It was easy for Tony from Littleton. Sir, what do you think?
Hey, George, enjoyed the show today. I heard your comments about the Charlie Kirk show
Yeah, tell me
yesterday.
about
And
that. Did you listen to that one?
I listened to a little bit of his show, and it's very much the America First, message. And Gorka shares that. I mean, his show is called America First, for crying out loud. Then you've also got the guy on Fox at night. I can't think of his name. These are all America First guys. And the caller that you had that said, well, these people are doing it just to embarrass Biden. No, I think it runs a whole lot deeper.
I think it's got to.
It does. The America First isolationist movement has been a part of the Republican Party for 80 years. And it most of the time gets buried by what we'll call it the establishment Republicans, or the center of the Republican Party typically buries this. I've often thought this is very much what we're going through right now. It's history not repeating itself, but boy, it's rhyming. If you look at 1940 and there was an Eastern European power that was Germany attacking all its neighbors, and then America was trying to defend England with a Lend-Lease program. For crying out loud, we're repeating it. Now it's Russia attacking. Biden signed the 2022 Lend-Lease program, trying to get armaments to Ukraine in this case, instead of the UK in 1940. And even FDR thought he was going to be impeached because he was doing so many clever things trying to get weapons to him. Well, now you've got a hard right side of the party with Getz and Boebert and that whole group, yes, inspired by Trump, his America First movement. And they have a lot of clout. They have a strong voice. They've got a lot of media people. Remember who was leading it back in 40, which was Charles Lindbergh himself. And the only thing that stopped it was Pearl Harbor. And the minute Pearl Harbor hit, those guys went quiet for the next 12 years, and they wouldn't emerge again until Eisenhower was running in 1952. And I don't mean to go through this kind of history thing. I'm saying it's repeating. It's rhyming. In 52, Eisenhower was not going to run for president, but Taft, who was the America First side of the party, he was leading, and Eisenhower went to him and said, if you drop this American First isolationist thing, I won't run and you'll end up being president. Taft said no, and Eisenhower was not going to let his work in World War II, building of the UN, he was not NATO, he was not going to let that be eroded by an America First movement, and he ran. And we know that history. I mean, two-term president. So I only thank you for all the time. I'm just simply saying.
I want to ask you some questions though.
Yeah,
and
please.
I do agree. This is what Charlie said yesterday too. And I think one of his objections to us being involved in this is if we don't end this now by ceding away territory that is currently within the borders of Ukraine against their will, that we could be sleepwalking, those are his words, into a confrontation that could lead us to World War III. And that's sort of what you've been talking about too. Like, this is going to be the preface for some other bigger, worser thing that are going to have dire consequences for us because it's going to impact our NATO allies. Do you see that?
Okay, so that parallel again would be the equivalent of appeasement. He's saying, let Russia have the eastern part of Ukraine.
It does feel like appeasement.
That's appeasement. Now, out of the fear, then he's raising the point that out of the fear that this could become a wider war with Russia. And yes, that's possible. Russia's threatening to use nuclear weapons, for crying out loud. And I think we have to have our eyes wide open. Yes, this could become a wider war. And then do I think he's going to use nuclear weapons? No. And a lot of experts say he's never really going to pull that trigger, and that people around him in Russia will prevent him from doing that. Now, there's no guarantee of that, and that's what Charlie Kirk is talking about. But I personally, and I'm not a hawk at all, but in this situation, I do not believe we can allow a nuclear powered country to overrun a smaller country in the 21st century. They're doing what we did in the 20th century, and we have to kind of remake this thing and say, no, not going to happen. If we let him do it, then China would do the same thing to Taiwan. I think China's watching carefully and to see if we can resist and the West resist Russia, they'll be a lot more reluctant to go after Taiwan.
You cannot use the term appeasement when you're talking about world affairs without people reflecting instantly on Neville Chamberlain, the failed prime minister from our allies in the UK, who did the same thing by giving up the Sudetenland to Hitler in the thoughts that he won't expand anywhere either. Now, Putin isn't Hitler, but man, he's a lot closer to that zip code than he is to being anyone else there in Western Europe. I have some of the same concerns. I don't want them to expand. And based on what happened in the Crimea, I don't trust this guy to say, well, that's it, just that far. If you just let us have Crimea, our little green men will retreat back to our borders and you won't have to worry about us again. Well, advance forward just a handful of years. And here we are saying, I'm sorry, we misspoke. We meant Crimea and Eastern Ukraine. I don't know how this ends, but if you're out there and you think we're going to negotiate a deal and Putin's going to abide by it, holy crack smoke. There's no evidence of that.
That's the problem. There is no off ramp because he is saying absolutely he's going to take Ukraine, and if he doesn't succeed here, I don't even know how he faces his own country. I mean, he has no way to just walk out, and Ukraine is saying, you get the hell out, period. And I don't know how he does that. I mean, I don't know what his off ramp is. Now, also, I believe now Biden and NATO are just as deep in this, where they're not going to just all of a sudden say, oh, go ahead. Sorry, we've run out of weapons. We're not going to supply you anymore. That's not going to happen either. So we are at that point.
Well, I think he is testing Biden's and Western Europe's resolve and whether or not the fatigue factor would set in here to impact our decision for the long term. And I think you're right. He is all in. He has put all the chips on the table and he is moving forward. I don't know if us responding in such a way as to back down or negotiate now does anything to help us in the future. What world leader, Xi Jinping to be included, would look at this and say, man, the U.S. really did a number there? I think everyone would look at us and go, if you just push hard enough, you can wear out the American resolve. Is that how we want to be known?
And that's what Russia expected in the very beginning. That's why Putin thought the West will never stand up. The U.S. will never stand up. Well, he got it wrong. He got it absolutely wrong. The West is not going to buckle. Poland and the Baltic states, they're more afraid that Putin will come into their country right after taking Ukraine. They're very concerned that this expansion is going to get a lot wider than just Ukraine. And they're not going to give up, and neither is Germany, and the UK is certainly not going to give up. In fact, the UK is thinking about 1940. They're thinking about exactly what happened. I wonder if that's what's driving them.
I wonder.
Absolutely. They look at it and say, my God, we were supported by the United States back in the day. They were Lend-Lease sending us weapons trying to fight off the Germans. They're not going to give up. They would give them planes right now if they could figure out how to train their pilots.
I wonder. I wonder. I don't know if that's a different kind of escalation as well. We might get there. I don't know. We might get there. But you remember, Putin always has the I'm taking my ball and going home nuke button to press. And that's got to be a concern for folks. It is a concern for me, too. The other thing.
Let me throw one more thing on the table. Then because another time I'll call you and talk about this if this issue gets a little wider. I honestly believe that the whole mutual assured destruction thing has worked throughout the Cold War, right? Well, I think that we really should be rethinking the dynamic now and saying it's trilateral assured destruction and include China and how this thing in my mind could be won at this point is to tell China, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but it's to tell China, look, if they launch a nuclear weapon, we have to retaliate. And if we retaliate, it's going to get a lot wider, and they're going to hit us harder, and then we could be taken down entirely, and so could Russia. But let's be perfectly clear. We will destroy you too. And so will Russia. Russia doesn't want you surviving any more than we do, and we'll destroy you too. So just know now, if this war gets out of hand, you're not getting out of this. You're not getting out of your 2,000-year history comes to an end. So now you are now motivated to use your influence to help get Russia to back Putin down. And this is really what I think the 21st century has to be about, is make it a trilateral assured destruction. That way,
yeah, I don't know how we drag
China would
someone
help
else
back
into
down
it.
Russia.
I don't know. I don't know that.
Well,
I think China would, at least in terms of world opinion, be able to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is I don't see that. This could go like an opportunity for us. And that is in the sort of Tet-offensive battle of the Gulf. The Tet-offensive got much more around by the media. There's no interest to talk about the war. I hope that doesn't happen. But if you'll remember, during Tet, the NBA and the VC threw a ton of folks at us in South Vietnam. And it was reported as, devastating loss. Or, there was a lot of chaos and there were a lot of losses. But the North was incapable of mounting a similar offensive for almost years before they did that. This is back in 15 years ago. But because of the way it was perceived by the American public and the elected officials who hamstrung the military, we reacted in such a wussy kind of, oh my gosh, we need to start thinking about an alternative exit, that we didn't push forward when we should have. The other example is the Battle of the Bulge. This was the last massive effort by the bad guys, right? During the Hurricane Forest, I think where we were basically everything we could at that. And when it didn't work, when they couldn't break all the way through, when we withheld them enough, then it kind of ended. I wonder if this doesn't have some of the telltale signs of that too. According to Charlie, Russia is mobilizing hundreds of thousands of troops. He's been training them. He's going to throw them here over the border at the Ukrainians sometime right before the mud season, which is coming up at the end of the month, early March. I got to say, if the Ukrainians, with our assistance, can repel them and inflict heavy casualties on them, this might be an exit for Putin. And that, in Putin's exit, may then be an exit for Russia. I don't know how many losses he can sustain without the other power broker buying him. Man, if you're not about what you do after you're the guy. You know what I mean? After you're the head of the I don't know. Now, I'm speculating just like So we've only got a couple places. We could use nuclear weapons, it will, so that if it does, I don't see that. That's just fake. Hey, if a question you can ask on another show is, if he did use a nuclear weapon, I mean, just get people's opinion. If he did, what then? What happens then? And that's hard to answer. I mean, I don't have an answer. I mean, I have suspicions, but I'm just saying, if he does use tactical nuclear weapons to try and win that war against the Ukrainians in the battlefield, then what happens? Tony, great call. Thank you, my
man.
All right,
thank you.
Thanks for being a good, loyal listener and a caller. That was a good conversation. I appreciate Tony's perspective and insight on that. And you know what? Billy and I were talking off air. I don't know if there's any way to get someone who's so big and successful and young and taller and better looking than I am on the radio, but I'd love to have that conversation with Charlie, because if that's part of that American firster agenda, I'd like to explore it more with him, especially as we head into this, really what's about to be a very intense and kinetic exchange potentially at the end of this month. I'd like to do that. We'll see if he can. He's a super busy guy, super successful. We'll see if we can get him on. Someone else who we want to get on the show again, but you can go visit right now, is our friend Jesse. Jesse and his team of locally grown folks, they operate Littleton Jewelry. Now, they have a website, littletonfinejewelry.com. It's cool. You can find a bunch of stuff there. But I'm telling you that even post-Valentine's Day, as we head into the rest of the year, whether it's birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, you can do the tried and true. You can do that, and that's okay. Not very creative, not very long-lasting, not very memorable. Or you can go to Littleton Jewelry. Now, these guys couldn't be easier to get to on the road. Whether you're going down Hamden westbound, that's 285, and you take a left on Santa Fe, or you're going 470 westbound and you take a right on Santa Fe. It's kind of equidistant there. You just get to where Hudson Gardens is, right across from ACC. That's the All Concrete College. And then you turn right at the jewelry repair sign. Go inside. You'll be blown away. You look at the outside and you'll be like, it just looks like any other store. But then when you go inside, what you realize is the people in there are just the super nicest people from the community, and they want to get to know you, not just for the sale, but just because they like people. And you get to see all the things that they do, whether it's the buying and the selling of the precious gems, jewelry, gold, silver, platinum. They fix stuff too, like your jewelry. They'll clean it up, your watch. They've been doing that since Jesse's parents ran the store. It was just a watch repair place. But the real key here, the real gem, the real easy thing to do is to ask them about their custom-made jewelry. They have built an extension onto their store. They took over another part of the building just for all the custom jewelry that they do. And they have these craftsmen there, the craftsmen that the mall stores, the mall jewelry stores, who are way more expensive. Those folks try to hire these guys and they won't leave, not even for more money. They stay because of Jesse. They stay because of the store, the way they do business, and really they stay because of you. So do me a favor, go in there, take a look around. Maybe you're not ready to buy the first time, but you will be the second time. Go in there, tell them, hi, I listened to you on the George Show on 710 KNUS. They'll be thrilled. They say, we listen too, and check out all that they have to offer. LittletonFineJewelry.com, LittletonFineJewelry.com. But I say go out and drive them. Tell them that George said hi. George Brockler on the George Show. We'll be right back, 710 KNUS. George Brockler right back with you here for the final segment of the George Show 710 KNUS. Some texts that have come in here. American people won't fight. This is a weak, defeated nation. We are in fourth place behind Russia, China, and EU. Millie sure has our military knowing their pronouns, though. The American people en masse hate their freedom. I disagree with a lot of that, right? Like the American people won't fight. I do worry about that based on this recruiting story that you and I talked about yesterday. This is a weak and defeated nation. We're not. We're not weak or defeated. We are in a position to be weaker than we have been, I think, in my memory, but we're not weak or defeated in that way. We are in fourth place behind Russia, China, and the EU. I disagree. I don't know what metric that is that you're using, but remember, Russia is kind of, they're on the ropes, man. They have got so many things cutting against them. The only thing they've got at this point is the natural gas. And without the help from Iran and China, they'd be in much worse position. But Russia is very, very far behind, in my opinion, the threat that China poses as a near-peer competitor. And even China has its own longer-term issues, whether it's population, the economy, even their own housing issues. That's real. And the EU, I don't think so. What metric are you looking at for that? But I get the concern. The thing that you've put in there, listener, that concerns me the most is, will the American people fight? I don't know, man. We sure try to find a lot of reasons to not do that. Here's another one. Comparing today with World War II is way off base. The major players all have nukes now. It's a different game. Whoever responds to a nuclear strike will have already lost. Putin is backed into a corner. Watch out. So what's the answer, though? If you're right, what's the answer? I texted back, so we should give up? Like, just give in, appease him because we're afraid of what he might do? Is that all that's left? Because once you do that, when do you say no? More text coming in. I'll get to some of those as well. But two things that are going on here. One, I want to tell you about Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. That's the second Mitch I've discussed today on air. Mitch Floria is that young man, grew up in communist-controlled Romania and under Ceausescu, came here, started a business and a family, and it's that business that I tell you about right now. It's called The Art of Granite. The title of it, and the website is theartofgranite.com, and granite's with a T. It's a little deceptive because the guy does so much more than granite. He does marble, he does quartz, which are the man-mades. He does all these other things to make your kitchen, your bathroom beautiful by upgrading your countertop. And what's great about it is he doesn't just rely upon word of mouth, even though I got to tell you, more and more people just randomly text me and go, I heard you talk about Mitch Floria. We used him. Awesome. Join that crowd, man. They're all so happy with the work that he's done. But here's the other thing. He advertises on the show to get out to the folks that are like, well, wait a minute. I'd never heard of Mitch on my side of town. Get out there to his showroom. So easy to get to at about 6th Avenue and Colfaxy I-70 area, and check out the wide selection they have. And if you meet Mitch, you're going to close the door with Mitch. I'm about 95, 98% sure of that. But here's the deal. If you do the deal with him this month, 20% off of labor. Hello. That's one of every $5 for labor that get cut right off the top. Or you might opt to say, I'd rather have a free sink with my bathroom countertop or my kitchen countertop package. He'll do that as well. Now, something else about Mitch that is that's pretty cool is the phone number we give out. That's his phone number. That's the kind of business that he does. Eye to eye, handshake to handshake, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. Now, listen, Billy has figured out a way to jump into something taking place right this second. It's the very first presidential campaign rally for Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina and ambassador to the United Nations. This is courtesy of Fox News Billy.
That was then. Now America is falling behind. Our future is slipping. Our leaders are failing us. And no one embodies that failure more than Joe Biden. Right now, in the greatest country in human history, we have too many families paying too much for groceries, too many mothers searching frantically for baby formula, and too many children who are so far behind in the classroom, they may never get ahead. We have too many small businesses who can't afford rent, and too many big businesses getting taxpayer bailouts. We have too much crime on our streets, too many drugs flooding our cities, and too few police and border patrol. And from Joe Biden on down, our leaders put too much trust in big government and too little trust in the American people. They have us spiraling towards socialism with a new $1 trillion spending bill every few months and a national debt over $30 trillion. This is not the America that called to my parents. And make no mistake, this is not the America I will leave to my children.
I like that.
We must stop socialism before it's too late. It's weakening America from within.
Amen.
But there's something else that's eating away at our national core. On Biden and Harris's watch, a self-loathing has swept our country. It's in the classroom, the boardroom, and the back rooms of government. Every day we're told America is flawed, rotten, and full of hate. Joe and Kamala even say America's racist. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Man, I like this.
The American people know better. My immigrant parents know better. And take it from me, the first minority female governor in history, America is not a racist country.
Boom. This isn't a bad first speech here to give at a rally.
This self-loathing is a virus more dangerous
And I
than
believe
any
self-loathing
pandemic.
is right on.
It's a system of a lack of pride in our country
Yep.
and a lack of trust in our leaders.
How do you not love this?
And it ignores the values that have sustained America since our founding. I have traveled around the world and back. I've seen what else is out there. America isn't perfect, but the principles at America's core are perfect.
Yeah. Reminiscent of some of these Trump rallies.
And the American people are not full of hate.
Hey, that's Nikki. I
We're
wish we
full
could
of
stick
love,
around, but we are
and
out
we're
of time.
sustained
Listen, what you're hearing there, it makes me smile. I love to hear that. Is it enough to defeat the Don? Is it enough to defeat Meatball Ron? That's what DJT is calling him. We'll discuss this. We'll talk about more of it tomorrow. My thanks to Mitch and Rose and everybody else. Stick around. George Brockler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.